Welcome to the Bogues podcast. I'm Lodge and in charge, pro, with my sort of co-host, Andrew, Big Dog Bogut. Andrew, how you doing today, brother?
I am great. I am doing very, very well. A lot to get through, pro. But fans, let us know how that intro was out of 10. Want to know? We should keep that going. It was pretty much more passionate than I've been the last couple of weeks. So I like it, pro.
Yeah, it's sort of. I think that I'll get the same rating that my wife gives me in our bedroom, probably a 2.5 to a 3 top. So
X-rated from the start. I like it.
Ah, man. All right, brother. What do we got on tap this week?
We've got a lot. We have a lot. So we'll just get straight into what I want to do is wrap up the first round. A lot to talk about with mainly the teams that have exited and where they go from here and the series and what you thought. But all the higher seeds won, pro. So I don't know how far back that goes, but it's going to be a rarity, doesn't it? Usually there's an upset or two. I don't know if you can count the Brooklyn as a lower seed technically, even though they were, considering that if healthy, they would have been higher. But yeah, all the higher seeds won. So a good day for the bettors.
No question. I probably had like 2 or 3 series wrong at least on prediction, but yeah, you don't expect it. You expect it not as bad as the NCAA tournament and first round knockouts, but you expect at least 1 or 2. But yeah, all the higher seeds winning. That's
usually a 4.
Weird.
Usually there's at least a 4-5 or a 3-6 that kind of gets through, but hasn't happened. Let's start with Milwaukee and Chicago. What I'm going to do is go through each of the kind of notable players from that series. For Milwaukee, it was obvious 28, 13, and 6 for Giannis a night. For the Bulls, I think Vucevic was their best player. 19, 12, and 3. I want to kind of go through who the horror player was for the losing team. I think for the Bulls, it was everyone. Really, you can't finish a playoff series with 3 blowout losses essentially, and that's what they did. They battled for the first 2. They won game 2, and then it was just bad after that. They got blown out basically. They weren't really in any of those games. The last 3. Milwaukee handled their business with no Middleton, which was very, very impressive. They adjusted on the fly very quickly. They brought Portis into the starting lineup, which was kind of weird because it's essentially 3 bigs. Giannis is essentially a point forward, but they bring in another 3-point shooter with Portis and they keep Lopez out there. So a bigger lineup, but it worked really, really well. I was disappointed in Chicago, pro. I thought, when you compare it to, say, a New Orleans, that's what Chicago should have been. They were probably going to lose a series regardless, but they just had no fight. They got punched and they just laid down. And, I guess your growth as a team going into next season, the season after, is how you battle in these playoffs. And I think they laid down those last 3 games. So I was disappointed with that. But what are your thoughts on that series?
I expected a little bit more fight out of Chicago, especially when Middleton being out. You expect them, they're missing Ball. Of course, that's a huge loss for them, being a guy who could set everything up, passer and, playmaker like that. But you expect everyone just to sort of say next man up mentality like a Milwaukee gave you. And for them to sort of lay down like that, I was a little bit surprised myself. I expected more out of Kobe White. I expected more out of Patrick Williams. Even Caruso, I expected a little bit more out of, and you just didn't get it. Didn't get consistent fight. And like I've been saying for the last few weeks, we talk about playoffs. It really, you're in a vacuum as far as, you really get to see what type of value you have as a player, how you could compete in the playoffs. And you could only use first playoff series, to a certain extent, you can only use that so far. And look, all those other guys like DeRozan's been in the playoffs. I don't know. Vooch has been in the playoffs before, not obviously deep because with Orlando, but he's been in the playoffs before. Levine, probably, but still, like, these are 3 highlighted players that are making, north of 20, some north of 30. You expect them to show up a little bit more than they did.
Yeah, and that's it. Like, I'm people are going to think, oh, what do you mean? You expected more fight, Bogues. I picked this as a sweep series for Milwaukee, but what I mean by that is just, Milwaukee were going to win the series, but just make them fight for it. They didn't really get any games down to crunch time. There was no real pressure on Milwaukee in this series at all. After game 2, it's 1-1, going back to Chicago, maybe, but then they just got absolutely destroyed. So where to for Chicago? I mean, they have a decent core. They made a lot of moves in the offseason. They really came out of the gate well. Do you think they are a few tweaks away, a few veterans away, continue to develop this core group and make a little splash in free agency or just sit tight and develop?
Well, it's really hard for them to make any moves, Bogues. They got Levine coming in as a free agent. He becomes a free unrestricted this summer, so they're going to have to do something with him right away. They probably already have a handshake, wink, wink deal behind the scenes, I assume. I think this team's a little better than what they finished up at. I'd like to see them with ball. They don't really have shot blocking, which is their biggest issue. I think that like Vucevic gives you so much as a scorer and someone who can make shots and score in the post and do some things, but not really a rim protector. And without ball, that's a big part of your team. And I think Kobe White needs to get better. I think Patrick Williams, you got to have him for a whole year, see what he's like. And then, obviously missing Caruso for a little bit. I would keep this core group together for another year and see what happens. I don't think with Levine's salary, even if it came off the books, it's not like you could replace the money you gave them because you pay Vucevic and you pay DeMar so much money, like you're not going to have a lot of salary cap room, even if you lose Levine. I think you keep him. I'm not a huge Levine fan, but he does score and it does stretch the floor out a little bit. DeRozan's not a 3-point shooter. Levine's sort of your only really big time threat, even though Vucevic shoots a little bit. I would keep the core together one more year. If they can't make any noise in the playoffs next year, then I would look to sort of shuffle some pieces because you sign Levine to a long-term contract, then you could trade him a year from now or 2 years from now. You can get off Vucevic. People probably a lot easier to get off DeRozan or get off Levine. Vucevic, because as you know, the bigs aren't as valuable. So it's going to be a little bit tougher to sort of move him if you're going to do that. I would keep them together, see what you got, and then just keep on drafting. I think they got like a top 20 pick or top 21 pick in this year's draft. Try to get, another young player, try to develop, in a couple of years, see what you got. But I think they got a pretty good core. What do you think, Bogues?
Yeah, I agree. I think if they can just pull off some sort of vet min feet set shooter, a Tony Snell, someone that can just, be feet set from three to balance out their offense a little bit, and then just a rim protector, JaVale McGee type or someone like that, they can get on the cheap. I think will definitely help them. Like you said, they're pretty hindered if they max out Levine. Their cap's pretty stretched, but they're going to have to go to the vet min market and get some of those cheaper deals. And they can find a few gems. I think they can give them, 10, 15, 20 a night in those positions. It just depends if the veterans want to go to Chicago and see that as a sticking point. But I think overall, I didn't expect a lot from them this season. And they made the playoffs. This is kind of a building stepping stone for them, but probably should have done a little bit better with the veterans they have. But we'll see how they go next season. All right, Toronto and Philly. So we both got this one wrong. Philly came out. I mean, Embiid, we probably underestimated him, but Philly win this 4-2. Embiid 26 and 11 with constant double teams, which is pretty impressive. Pretty impressive numbers considering how much they try to get the ball out of his hands on the catch. Siakam 22, 7 and 5 or 6 assists, was probably their best player. The letdown of the series for me was Van Vliet. Even before their injury, bro. I know he got hurt and was battling through it, but he was 13.8 points a game on horrific shooting numbers, 35 from the field and 33 from three. That's not going to get it done. And he was kind of my X factor. I thought if he had a big series, they would have a chance. I'm surprised they even got 2 games without him, to be honest with you, because he was their motor through the regular season. But he was a big out for them. So I thought he had a disappointing series even with the injury. Big blowouts. I think, Toronto early on just absolutely not laid down. They just couldn't get it going. And credit to them, they could have just packed it in and went home 4-0, but they made it a series with kind of, this is what I would have expected from Chicago. They're down 3-0 and they come back and they make it a series at least, and it finishes 4-2. So I think they salvaged a little bit of goodwill there to build for the offseason. Harden woke up in Game 6 finally and had a decent night. Thibault's the interesting one. He couldn't play on the road, obviously, due to the vax mandates, but he's kind of fallen out of the rotation regardless. He didn't play a lot in Philly neither, and didn't play well. So I don't know if that's just the herky-jerkiness of playing a game and not playing a game, or if Doc was like, I'm just going to keep kind of my core guys because I don't want him in and out disrupting the rotations. But he's going to have to, he's going to be very important for him in the next round, and if they get to the conference finals. But that's kind of my wrap on Philly and Toronto. What were your thoughts on that series?
Well, I expected more. I expected, obviously, Toronto to win the series, but They played. I thought they did a decent job that last game. They really had a good first half, and they just got intimidated that second half and just got blown out, and it wasn't even a close deal. And I expected more out of Van Vliet. Obviously, he got hurt, and Boucher actually played pretty well in that last game. He averaged 11 and 5 in the series, but I thought he played really well. I expected a little bit more out of Gary Trent Jr. I was such a fan of him during the year. Still am. Of course, you have a bad playoff. It's not like the end of the world, but I expected him to really step his game up, maybe average a little bit like Siakam averaged, 22, closer to 22 rather than, so the 15 that he dropped. I'll tell you what, though, with Philly going forward, Embiid, that orbital fracture that he suffered in that last game. Rondo had that when we were playing for us, and Richard Jefferson sort of kneed him in the face, and so literally put a hole in his face that he was out for like 3 weeks. I don't know.
Was that regular season though? That was regular season though, right?
That was regular season. Obviously, I don't even know if he had a procedure done until after. I think he wore the mask and all that. I don't know, man. That's a tough one to come back from. I don't know if he can come back right away, and he'll have to miss some games. Obviously, he wants to play, Embiid being the warrior that he is. But like you said, Harden finally woke up. But I worry about him. I didn't think they can beat Miami in the next round anyway. But I do worry about that if he's gonna suffer that type of an injury. That's a tough one.
Yeah, real tough. And he was in the game when he probably shouldn't have been. We are hindsight geniuses, but they're up 20 with 4 minutes left in the fourth. It was the game was over pretty much, and then Siakam got him. But for Toronto moving on, I guess they're in a decent position. They have a pretty good core, decent. Their cap's pretty good. They're 18th in the league as of today, at 134 million accumulative for their roster. They go down to 114 next season. They have some money to splash around if they need to, so they could probably bring in a few other complementary pieces to what they have. I think they need a big in the East. They needed a brute big for this very reason of Embiid. I think in the East now, if Philly do get to a conference finals, there's going to be teams adjusting in the East to try and get through them. They're going to have to get, and they had no beef. I mean, Birch isn't horrible. He's solid, but he's pretty light as well. They need probably a big bruiser off the bench just for those situations like Joel Embiid, so they don't have to double all game. But I think they'll make a few little tweaks, and I think they've got a pretty good core to continue on with. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised to see them in a couple of years to be, a top 4, top 5 team in the East. So, which they were this season, almost anyway. So I think they'll be pretty good in the long term, Pro.
I do. I really think they're going to be fine. I mean, obviously Van Vliet, we talked about having a tough series, but he's as solid as they come point guard wise. And Siakam being their guy, and they got him for another 2 years. And let's not forget, they get the Rookie of the Year under a rookie deal for the next 3 years. So they've got a good core bunch of guys. Like you said, they need a little bit of help. Maybe they need an Australian big that's playing in the Southwest somewhere that's not really getting that much time. Maybe they could ship them up. But I think that they're fine. I think the front office usually does a pretty good job of. Masai does a really good job bringing players in and bringing those fringe guys in to really develop them. I think they'll be good. I think, they could probably sign Boucher, on a long-term small deal. But they do need stronger guys like a Daniel Theis type or someone that big and strong guy. Yeah. They don't need a big-time player or anything. No. I don't know if they're going to get one anyway. Yeah.
Just a big that can protect the rim and just, you're going to have to get through Philly at some point in the East, even next season. And they struggled with it. You don't want to double all game. I mean, it's tough. And they try to double and scramble with those small ball lineups. And I mean, Boucher was great for him, but defensively, you're asking a lot if you want him to keep Embiid out of the paint. It's just tough. But Thaddeus Young's on 14 this year. That's coming off the books. Boucher's a free agent, so they have some cap space to play with. So that'll be interesting to see where Toronto go. Okay, Boston, Brooklyn. I think you had Brooklyn in 7. I had Boston in 6, and it ended up being something that I don't think anyone out there had picked, sweep, which was, no one. I don't know how you picked that, but crazy. But Boston were elite in this series. My gripes with Brooklyn were the chemistry and the teamwork. I'm going to keep preaching it, and it looked like that. I mean, they got away with just throwing it to KD whenever shit hit the fan during the regular season. and KD's so good, he'd get you a bucket. They couldn't do that this series, and KD kind of struggled. But I mean, my player of the Boston Celtics, Tatum, obviously 29.5, 7.3, and 5 a night in that playoff series, phenomenal. I'm gonna put Brown as my player from Brooklyn that I thought had the best impact for them. Not huge numbers, but 14, 5, and 3 on good shooting numbers from three. Found his 3-ball that series and was knocking him down at 43%. Guy who struggled was KD. Look, he still had good numbers when you look at his stat sheet. He's 26, 5, and 6 for the series. Most people would look at that and say, shit, I'll take that any day of the week. But even KD will tell you that's not good enough from him, and he can give you much more than that. What was glaring for him was 38% from the field, 33% from 3, 5.3 turnovers a night. So you average 6 assists to 5.3 turnovers, and he looked tired. He just looked worn down. He looked like, I think he realized, shit, I've got to carry this team to even get a win in the series, and it just didn't work. But nobody saw a sweep, 4-0. I mean, and Tatum, as we discussed pre-series, Tatum and Brown were my X factors and yours on the defensive end. We know what they're going to bring offensively, but I thought if Tatum can just, make KD work, KD's going to get his numbers, which he kind of did, 26, 5, and 6, but at a bad clip. That's exactly what you needed from Tatum. And he was above average, borderline elite defensively this series, man. He was getting deflections. He was a lot of times during the regular season you'd screen him and he'd velcro to the screen and kind of half quit and leak out for a cherry to get a open layup in transition. No, he was getting hit and chasing KD and blocked a few of his shots from behind. He was phenomenal. I just hope he keeps that passion defensively, because if he does it, they got a really big chance to make the finals out of the East. So that was kind of what I had for that series. Pro, what were your thoughts?
Bogues, look, I've been as hard as anybody on not only Boston, but Jason Tatum. And I think Jason Tatum, if you watched him in the playoffs, and just sort of gave you a bird's eye view of him and just zoned in on him, you would think he's an MVP, the way he played. I mean, 29, 7, and 5, throughout that series. And Boston itself just made plays. Like it reminded me watching like older teams like the Celtics in the early 90s, when they were about to break up, the Lakers when Detroit destroyed them in the finals, where like they gave you everything they can give you, but the other team just made play after play after play. You thought that like, all right, Brooklyn's making a run now, in these games, and Boston was like, They just, anytime they needed to make a play, they made a play. They were tough. They played unbelievably defensively. They were all over the place defensively. And then offensively, they just moved the ball to an open shooter, open driver, and they were really good. Whatever transformation they made in the second half has been legendary for them. Brooklyn, the thing with Durant with the turnovers, it's funny, like no other team, I never really saw any other team do this to him, where he is loose with the ball. He's 7 feet tall. Of course, he's going to be a little loose with the ball. And when he comes off pick and roll, they just attacked him. Like that second defender just came over and got in his space to try to get deflections. And that's where he had, in my opinion, the hardest part, sort of dealing with Boston's defense. And look, they just didn't have enough. They didn't have enough. They weren't good enough. Kyrie and Durant had to have this hell of a, they had to play like Hall of Famers every night, and they just didn't have enough offense. I didn't think that Andre Drummond gave enough. Like I said, he needed to be the guy that really stepped his game up. Curry, I thought, played well. Brown played well, but they just didn't have enough. And, going forward, the biggest problem they got is Simmons, because now, look, you trade Harden, and who knows, because we weren't there. We're not living with them. But like I always said, like, look, why make that trade? You could have had Harden. Durant was coming back. The mandates were probably 60-40, 70-30 were going to get lifted. And you would have had this offensive team. They were never a defensive team, but at least they would have had the Harden and just an offensive juggernaut that you could outscore teams with. But I get it. They had to make the move. They made the move. Going forward, hey, look, now this is what you wanted. You got Simmons and you got to beg him to play. It's going to be an ongoing thing probably. Who knows? Maybe it's not.
I think it's not, bro. I think there's some performance anxiety kicking in. I really do. I think you know, you read between the lines of watching a few of Nash's press conferences when he was asked about it. Towards the end of that series, he was just so over that question and fatigued, and he didn't know how to answer it because he's obviously being told one thing by PR, one thing by Ben Simmons and his group, one thing by the organization. Then he hears one thing directly from Ben, sees him working out, doing windmills, and then, you know what I mean? So I think it's starting to wear down, but I think there are some issues there that he's going to have to work through mentally, and we know, you know, it's public that he had issues with mental health. A lot of people questioned it around, you know, whether that was a ploy to get out of Philly and get your money back that he's still trying to go to court over with the players union to get his 20 odd million back that he was fined. And it could be a case of the boy who cried wolf. Like it really is. I think maybe he's, you know, feeling, you know, like he's that missing piece. And I thought he had, you know, at 3-0, I thought he was playing with house money to come back in game 4. Because, like, even if he played shitty and they got swept, it's like, yeah, we're down 3-0, what do you want me to do? And if they salvaged a game or two, then he looks like a hero. So I thought if there was ever a time for him to come back, I'm not going to question whether he's healthy or not because you just don't know. But it said, you know, the wording around, you know, Ben Simmons's kind of mental health, anxiety can trigger back issues. That's how they worded it. I'm like, what the hell? Like, that's performance anxiety, bro. That's, you know, and everyone's had it at stages where you're nervous before games and you get a bit of that performance anxiety and you think the world's crumbling in. But, you know, we've all had to deal with techniques to get through it at times. I've seen the best players in the world deal with certain things and get back to their, you know, some guys would go to the locker room pre-game and just take a minute or two to kind of get in some quiet silence before the game. There's all these different techniques, and he's going to find that. He's going to find like his chakra or his yoga pose or whatever it is. Like, got to find something because, you know, now you're going to have another 4 or 5 month off season of Ben Simmons videos of him working out, looking fantastic, and all the hype building up. And then you're going to get to a preseason where everyone's going to expect you to now, after 2 years off, to come back and be like, bang, I'm back. That's going to build anxiety too. The only way to kill the anxiety is to play, good or bad. And you're going to have shit games, you're going to have good games. The only way to kill that and stem that anxiety, you know, all psychologists will say eventually you got to attack the beast that's in your head. And as easy as that is to say, until you do it, nothing's going to change. So I'm concerned. I think there's some big underlying issues there that he's going to have to figure out. But the fact that they made a big move to get him, it's going to be very, very interesting.
Yeah, I think as far as mental health, I think you have to check the front office of the Brooklyn Nets mental health for bringing him in, to be honest with you. But here's the thing. I will give him this. I was against having him in for the playoffs because, look, he's the worst ever quote-unquote superstar dealing with adversity that I've ever seen. All right. And that I've ever seen. Anytime there's any type of adversity, he quits up to this point. I hope to God he gets better with it. No doubt about it. But he is. Just look at his history. He's been awful with it his whole career. So, but I wouldn't have played him. I would have waited he needs a training camp. He needs to get brought along, and he may not even do that. Who knows? But for any young player, I don't care how good you are. You don't have to be Ben Simmons to get this idea in your head. It's not about tweeting out pictures and videos of your workouts, tweeting out these great sayings, the tough guy, Mr. Tough Guy or Tough Girl, I'm this, I'm that. You always have to look yourself in the mirror and deal with adversity because every player is going to get punched in the face. And what are you going to do when you get your dick knocked in the dirt? That is what you need to understand. When you get your ass kicked, and you will, every player does, from Larry Bird to Kobe Bryant to Johnny Bryant and everybody in between, you're always going to get your ass kicked at some point. Are you going to get up? Are you going to fight through it? Are you going to deal with it? Because you talk like a tough guy all the time about this and that. And when things get hard, what are you going to do? Because they're going to get hard for everybody. And it's easy to tweet things out. It's easy to have interviews and your people put stuff out in the media. But what are you going to do when things get hard? And this guy's going to have to deal with this the rest of his career. People are going to boo the shit out of him. And you know what? Who cares? Nobody cares. At the end of the day, you're going to get your money and you're fine there. But get in there and compete because you want to be in the best. You want to be the next LeBron, or you want to be Kobe, or you want to be whoever you want to be. But those guys, like him or hate him, They went through the trenches and dealt with their adversity and kicked the living shit out of it. And that's what superstars do. You're just not born a superstar because your agent tells you're a superstar and all these media people jerk you off and tell you're a superstar. You're a superstar because you earn that shit. You earn it day in and day out, and you carry a fucking team. This ain't 2K. This ain't a fucking video game. This is real fucking life where you got to fucking carry a team. When you want to shit on Kevin Durant because he only averaged 20 whatever points a game in the media, but did you see what he's done his whole career? Steph Curry, like the respect you need for those types of players that carry organizations. And then you go to the role player. They need to deal with adversity too, just to keep their spot every day.
Mm. Yeah, Bruce Brown. Yeah, I mean, I thought Seth Curry was a great piece in that trade. He was probably the best.
Yeah.
He was the X factor out of that trade, really, for Brooklyn's side of things. But yeah, I think, and then elephant in the room is if he doesn't play or play up to par, that's 25, 30 million you got sitting on the bench. What did Brooklyn do? So hopefully he gets it right. He has a good off season. Don't post videos, man. Just get in the gym, do your thing, see a sports psych, get all that done. I think people want to see him. Everyone loves a bounce back story as much as they love to hate, right? Everyone loves to hate and throw darts, but everyone loves the bounce back too, especially in America. Like Australia, not so much. A bit tall poppy in Australia, but America love that rocky bounce back story. So he comes back firing. People are going to forget about the last couple of years. Did you see the Kyrie comments at the end of the season?
I heard somebody, Stephen A. Smith. Did you see Stephen A. Smith?
Yeah, I saw him.
Stephen A. Smith did like a 2-minute clip of I think it was on Barstool. But what happened? I didn't see it, Bogues.
Oh, for those not familiar with Stephen A. Smith, what Pro's talking about is Kyrie put out something saying that watch for all the people that just want to bash black athletes and hold us down, all of that, and then Stephen A. Smith just doubled down, and not a fan of either of those comments, but it was what it was. But Kyrie made some comments at the end of the season that he's excited to get together. He's a free agent. Keep in mind, people, he's a free agent. Excited to get together with Joe, Sean, so Joe's the owner, Sean's the GM, and KD, and have a chat about the future, Pro. But what's missing from that conversation?
Steve Nash?
Yeah, fucking head coach.
Yeah.
Oh, so I don't know if it was a gaffe or if it was pointed, but you read between the lines there, and it's not a great endorsement of your head coach when you've left him out of the conversation about how you're going to play ball next year. Tell you that much. Yeah,
to be honest, if I'm Nashy, he's got a, I'd be on Manhattan Beach playing volleyball, hanging out with my kids and staring out in that sunset versus dealing with that bullshit every day, to be honest. But it's just typical Kyrie stuff, man. I mean, look, Kyrie is an absolute superstar. I mean, he's one of the best ever to play the game at his position. I'll give him that. But you got to deal with a whole lot of shit, a lot of baggage with him and the things that he says and the way that he acts and some of the things that he does. So you got to figure out, is this worth it? The production that he gives us, is it worth the stuff that we have to deal with off the court and the statements and all this stuff? But like I said, there's a few things you could say to get any out of any jam if you have any adversity. Mm-hmm. I got hacked, COVID, mental health, or race. One of those 4 things will get you a get out of jail free card in the NBA. One of those 4 things is all you have to say. And you can literally murder somebody and get away with it. You just got to don't pay millions of dollars for a lawyer, gentlemen. Just use one of those 4 statements and you'll get out of any problem that you want in the NBA.
Glaring. I mean, I hope for Kyrie's sake it was a mistake, but I think Nash is probably thinking, what the hell did I get myself into? But he's been compensated for it at least. So anyway, we'll see how they go in the future. That'll be interesting to see their off season. Miami, Atlanta, pretty uneven series. You had this as a sweep, I believe. I think we both had it 4-1 or 4-0, so we're pretty close there. Went 4-1 to Miami. Butler, 30 points, 8 and 5 assists a night, which was fantastic. He was awesome for them and just got so much easy stuff. They really attacked Trae Young. They got him involved in a lot of pick and rolls with Butler, and Butler was just waltzing into the paint, which was probably hard to watch at times if you're the Atlanta fans and head coach. DeAndre Hunter was probably the best for Atlanta. You don't say that too often. 21.2 points a night at decent clips. Horror series for Trae Young. Horror series. He was horrible for pretty much bar one game. He he was bad. 15.4 points on 31% from the field and 18% pro from the three. He averaged more turnovers than assists pro. Do you know that? 6.2 turnovers to 6 assists a night. Just bad. A horror series, one he'll forget about. I think this is the Michael Jordan moment from when he got knocked out of the playoffs constantly. And although MJ played better, this is the Steph Curry earlier on in his career. This is where Trae Young's at in his career now. What's he going to do in the offseason? How's he going to come back? He needs to get in the weight room and get a little bit stronger because they just picked on him like a little baby defensively. Like it was, for those that know the game well, you watch that series, they had him involved in as many actions as possible. This isn't the regular season, pro, where you can hide a bad defender. Most teams in the regular season can hide a bad defender against like a feet set shooter or a guy that's not doing too much. In the playoffs, you're scattered to death. They're going to find you. They're going to put you in some action. They put Trae in a lot of action, and it was a layup fest for the most part. His defense was as bad as those offensive numbers I read were. His defense was probably worse. So that's saying something. With Oladipo back, it shows you how deep Miami are. I mean, he slides straight into the starting lineup, has a hell of a game in that closeout game. They're very, very deep, and I think they got a chance to go pretty deep in the playoffs just from a team aspect. They play the right way. They're enjoyable to watch. But as far as the series, it was kind of to be expected, bro.
Yeah, sure. I mean, without question, I expected Atlanta, even though I didn't pick them to win a game, I expect them to have a little bit more fight than this. Like I said, you really should look yourself in the mirror in the playoffs and look at how you played, how you competed to figure out what your real value is in the NBA. Now, look, is Trae Young a garbage player? Absolutely not. He's a very good player, probably a top, 12 player or so at his position. But he did it, like you said, they picked on him. And he's got to figure out what's important to him, defensively, especially shot selection and percentage, and better, just give a better effort defensively. I know he's got limitations. He's got size and length issues, but he needs to be able to, because they're going to pick on him. Look, Steph Curry, remember they picked on him? I don't know if it was Cleveland. Somebody picked on him and he was a little rough with, people were forcing him to guard. Well, he's gotten a lot better as a defender. And like I said, I think adversity, look, if you're a champion type player, I don't care if you win a championship or not, but if you're a great player and you get killed in a series based on your weakness, if you're any type of a superstar, you get in the offseason, you attack that weakness. You don't hide from it and you don't shy away from it. You go with it. And I guarantee you Steph did that. Kobe did that. MJ did that. Bird did that. Great competitors and champion type players, they do that. And he's going to have to do it. And look, I thought Bogdanovich had a pretty good series. DeAndre Hunter, I'm a huge fan of. He comes up with 21 and 4 for the series. But Trae Young, look, it's either feast or famine with him. He either makes 87 threes and he's ridiculous throwing lobs and things. But now he shoots 31%, 18%, a lot on shot selection stuff, and that's a problem. And Kevin Huerter, same thing. He signs that big contract. You can't shoot 36%. You're making this big money anymore. You're not on your rookie deal. And people look at you differently when you sign that deal. Robinson from Miami dealt with that when he struggled a little bit last year. But when you go 29%, 36%, 29 from the three, people see what are you doing now? So they sort of gotta look themselves in the mirror. Now Miami, they look great. They do what they do. They share the ball. They play hard defensively. Guys like Max Strus, steps up for 14 a game and, shooting 35 from the three. I mean, but they just do their thing in Miami. And I think they'll head to the Eastern Conference Finals. I do think they'll have a really hard time with Boston, but I expect them to roll through Philly pretty easily, probably like a 4-2 deal. But yeah, I thought Miami had a hell of a series. It wasn't really that close at all. And they're on to the next round.
I think Capella being out too didn't help because it made the glaring weakness of those perimeter defenders even worse. All of a sudden, Butler's turning the corner and it's a dunk or a layup instead of a floater or a 10-footer, right? So I think him being out definitely hurt them. But where did Atlanta go from here? I mean, that had a pretty terrible year in my opinion. They were pretty lucky to scrape in through the play-in and get Cleveland and whatnot. But their roster is kind of what it is. It's like, what else can they really do? They can, Gallinari's aging. Capella's getting older. He's had some injuries now. Trae Young's a young piece. They try to emulate kind of what Golden State did, building around Steph, but yeah, it doesn't look that way. So, what are your thoughts about that?
Bogues, you got to figure out, do you want to get the band back together and just roll with it and see what you have? I mean, it's hard to sort of dictate what this team is. Like last year, they made that huge run. They were like a game or two away from being in the finals, and now they sort of got lapdogged for 5 games, and then they were just bad. And what do you do? Look, obviously Trae Young's their guy, and they're going to go forward with Trae. There's no doubt about it. You got to figure out what you do with John Collins. Now, John Collins was out too, so I mean that was a big deal. Gallinari is aging.
Collins was playing during the regular season, pro.
He was, yeah, he was. That's true. I'm not a huge John Collins fan, so to me, I would see what you can get with John Collins. You can deal Gallinari easily this offseason. He's got 21.5, and he's he'll be an unrestricted free agent after next year. So you could deal him. I would probably keep Capella. I do like that Capella-Trae Young sort of matchup, that sort of, that
duo,
sort of
lobs,
duo. Yeah. And then you got Bogdanovich, which, he's got a player option. He's got 18 next year, a player option in 23, 24 for 18. So, ideally, you could probably deal him, but I wouldn't. I would probably, if I was going to deal anybody, it's probably John Collins, because you could probably get some value back for him. Herter, you got to figure out if Herter really has it in him to be a consistent shooter in the league. I mean, obviously, he did so well as throughout his rookie deal and things, and he's just had a really tough year, in my opinion, this year. So I would probably keep him. I would keep him. I would keep Trae. Obviously, you got a good player in Hunter. You just keep on trying to sort of play around with it. I think you can get value for Collins. I do. And then you just got to figure out. And then the Gallinari deal, I'd probably trade him. And then I don't think you're going to get much, except that $21 million off your books.
Yeah, he's expiring, so you might get something back. But Collins, I mean, I don't think they move Collins because they still don't know what his bar is yet. So I think they keep him. I think it's probably a bit early in his deal. They might wait a year or two. Herter moves up to $14.5 million next season. They're 15th in cap this year. And they'll move up probably close to the top 10. They'll go up another $10 million next season. So they're not hamstrung.
Don't forget Trae. Don't forget Trae kicks in.
Yeah, Trae kicks into $30 million next year. So they have a little bit of room, but not. They can't make a big splash. I think clearing Gallinari off your books will be key for them, and they don't really have much else. So yeah, they got some moves to make, some Moneyball type stuff if they can pull it off. But I'm not liking their roster. I think. Even the Knicks last season when they beat them and they had a decent run and beat Philly, obviously, but to go from a conference finals to barely making the playoffs with the same roster, something's amiss there. So we'll see how Atlanta rebuilds. All right, let's preview the Eastern Conference semifinals real quick. Boston versus Milwaukee. So I have Boston winning this 4-2 based on Middleton being out. I think he's going to be out for the series by all reports. It's not looking good. Even if he comes back late, I still think Boston 4-2. I think with Middleton, it would have went 7 in a coin flip. I think Giannis will will them to a few wins alone himself. I think the question is, will Giannis see the KD coverage? I think he will. It's a little bit of a different beast because they put Giannis in different positions to attack face up rather than KD. A lot of his stuff was 20-foot catches back to the basket, turning into fadeaways. They could double that easier. Giannis is a little bit harder to double, like straight double, because he's going at 500 miles an hour with a Euro step, right? So you can plug into elbows and boxes and get your hand on a deflection or two, but to hard double him in the middle of the floor is probably playing into Milwaukee's favor because they have so much shooting, and they shot the piss out of the ball the first round. Like Grayson Allen, Lopez. I think Grayson Allen was 58% from 3, I believe, in the first round, which is ridiculous. If they continue to shoot that number, they can make it a series. But I think the Middleton is just that extra scorer they're missing. It puts a lot more pressure on Drew Holiday. I think that the X factor for Milwaukee, if Bobby Portis has a big series, they could potentially go to 7 or win it. Bobby Portis is going to be the key for them, but then that takes away a guy that's usually coming off the bench for a bench punch. He's now in your starting lineup. So I will go 4-2 for Boston, Pro.
Yeah, I go Boston 4-2 as well. I think that they're on autopilot right now. They've been on autopilot for over a month now, meaning they play the right way. They share the ball. They play D. This next man up mentality. They've done a great job. I think Boston goes to the finals, to be honest with you. I think that they're that good, and I don't think they're afraid of anybody. They've got 2 stars on their team, and then they've got a bunch of role players that play their role, and they play hard. They got a coach that's learned on the fly most of the year, and now he's sort of he's sort of into his package of just being comfortable. And I think he's it's not wet behind the ears stuff. I think he's been very good. He's been a very good coach, for the last half of the year for sure. And I think that without Middleton, it's going to be hard for Milwaukee really to do it. We see it all the time in the playoffs where, your role players make shots and they play hard and they try to will their way to victory. But when you need that extra scorer, because they're going to do something to really take, Giannis out as much as they can, and they're going to need that second scorer to really rely on. Yeah, Portis is tough and he can make plays, and Grayson Allen can make shots, and in Holiday, Holiday does his thing, but I think they're going to really miss that scoring that Middleton gives them. And I think that Boston, it's just too good. Tatum's playing and Brown are playing just too much at a high level. Marcus Smart's making tough plays. Al Horford's making shots and he's doing his thing. I expected Boston to be a playing team, to be honest with you, this year. And now I got them going to the finals. So it's going to be a good series. I expected it to be 4-2. But who knows? But that's where I think it goes.
Yeah, and Horford was huge for them too, actually, in that first round. So now they get Williams. Williams is starting to come back to health too, so they're back to their normal rotation. So I think that's going to be key. But I think it's going to be a good series regardless. I think it'll be a dogfight of a series. Philly and Miami. I'm going Miami 4-2, factoring Embiid returning mid to late series. We discussed he's out with an orbital fracture plus a concussion. Now, I'm not a doctor, but I wouldn't be surprised if he tries to come back with a mask on. I just wouldn't be surprised if he came out maybe for game 2 or 3. But I know with facial stuff and concussion, you want to be very, very careful, especially the concussion stuff. We know how bad that can be long term. But I think Embiid knows what's at stake, and I think he'll be feeling that pressure. I think Harden has to have a 30-10 series to give Philly a legitimate chance. The ball's going to be back in his hands, bro. This is going to be the Houston Rockets light. The ball's going to be back in his hands. Look, Maxey will get a little bit of a spell on it, but I think if Harden can have that series and salvage it to 2-2 after 4 and they get Embiid back, they got a chance. But I think Miami are going to be very, very deep. I think this helps Miami, obviously, Embiid being out, but also Miami, you don't want Bam guarding Embiid for long stretches and getting him in foul trouble, because Bam provides so much for them offensively as well, with the split action, the handoff stuff, the flow stuff, the pick and roll stuff. Great decision maker, great passer, high assist center. Their backup is Dwayne Dedmon, who's a bit lighter as well in the arse. So they didn't really have a bruising big to battle Embiid, so this has kind of worked in their favor. Does Thibault 5 minutes again? That's going to be the interesting one. I think he will, with the way Butler's playing. Danny Green and Thibault will get that assignment. And I think Thibault will get that assignment on Hero coming off the bench. Then you got Oladipo will get probably the worst defender. So I think he can have a series. Got to keep Butler out of the paint. Now, probably an anomaly because Atlanta was so bad, but he was 12.5 points a night in the paint in the first round, Pro, which is inexcusable. 13 odd points a night with a foot in the paint is not good. As we know, Atlanta are horrible defensively, but they got to keep him out of the paint because Butler's historically not a great 3-point shooter. Likes the mid-range a little bit better. Wasn't great in the mid-range in the first round either, but the 13 points a night bumped him up to his 28, and the rest was from the free throw line. So that's kind of where you're at with that. But I hope Embiid can get healthy so we can see a good series. But I just wonder if you'll try to rush back or if they hold him back.
Well, I think if there's one player that doesn't have anxiety and doesn't want to compete, it's not Joel Embiid. That guy would come in, and he is a tough kid, man. He is tough. You could say what you want about him. Anyone could say what they want. The guy's not only super talented, but he's super tough. And I think he's got a lot of integrity and character. And I think he'd come back in game one if he could. I'm not a doctor. I have no idea about that stuff. But I did just remember what Rondo had to deal with that. And it's a tough deal to come back from. But I think he'll try to prolong it maybe and try to maybe make it out there. I think it's going to be a 4-1, maybe 4-2. I don't expect them. I don't expect him to be a huge factor in this just because of it's just kind of, I mean, if he is, God bless him, but I just don't see him being a huge factor because I think that's going to be a really tough case to come back from. And I expect Miami just to roll all over him. I don't think Harden's good enough. I don't think Harden's playing well enough to do that. Maxey had an unbelievable last game. I didn't even mention that against Toronto. I mean, he made everything. You would have thought he owed somebody money. He was making so many shots in a row, and but I don't think they have enough. And I think that I expect Miami to just sort of take advantage of that, and just play hard defensively and offensively, just share the ball, make shots. I expect Hero to have a big series. Obviously, Butler's going to do his thing. Bam's going to be tough. It'll be, I expect it to be probably a 4-1, 4-2 deal.
Yeah, I think it's going to be around that. It all depends on, as we said, the injuries and Embiid coming back. But I would not be surprised if he runs out with a mask in game 1 or 2. So we'll see how that goes. Let's get to the West. Denver, Golden State. Now, you for some reason picked Denver.
Yeah, I always get sucked in. Bogues, to how good a team's playing at the end of the year and how bad a team's playing at the end of the year. I always get sucked into it.
And it was a 3-6, wasn't it? So, I mean, sometimes they
I'm an idiot.
They can flip, but Golden State's hard to pick against. I mean, they go 4-1. Jokic 31, 13 and 6. So he did what he's done all season. The big thing was that I think Golden State limited his assist numbers for the most part, which was very, very important. I think they were like, if you're going to grind to get your 30 with Draymond doing every smart thing in the book to try and make it hard for you, we're not going to let you get 10, 15 assists. And historically, regular season playoffs, when Jokic has that big points assist line, the rebounds are one thing, but the big, like a 30 and 10, they win those games. So, because he's got other guys involved. Steph was 28, 5 and 3. So he came back off the bench, mind you, for the most part of that series, and then started late in that series. Horror series, I'm just going the whole team of Denver. The next highest scorer after Jokic was Monte Morris at 14 a night. It just put too much on Jokic. I mean, he had to play perfect basketball for them to be in the game late, not just win the game, just to be in the game with a chance. Draymond Green made him work. I didn't think they'd go to huge stretches with him as much as they did guarding one-on-one because Draymond's so important to him offensively and so important as a roam guy. Look, they started the series roaming off Aaron Gordon, which I predicted, and then Malone made a bit of adjustments and started putting Gordon in the dunker spot and trying to get him move around and shuffle around, which was a great adjustment. But Draymond did a phenomenal job. And, you look at how hard he made Jokic work. Jokic was gassed into that series because, Draymond's going to hold, he's going to grab, he's going to hit you really hard one possession, and the next possession he's going to take a charge. And just he's mind game defender and very, very smart. Got that big steal late in one of the games that sealed it. So it was a phenomenal battle to watch, mono-a-mono chess game between those two. And I think that was a fun battle to watch. But like I said, when Jokic's assist numbers are down, they generally don't win. And just not enough help for Jokic. We know they have two really good players that didn't play. It would have been a different series with them in it. And I guess the where to for Denver is pretty obvious. It's Porter Jr. and Murray getting healthy and seeing what this roster looks like with everyone healthy together. I don't think they have to make glaring changes. But if the health's just going to be the biggest thing for them in the offseason, get those guys healthy, get them ready. Porter Jr., I don't like the long-term prospects of him being healthy the rest of his career. He's been in all kinds of trouble since college, and it's have a back issue this young with the level of athleticism he plays with is really, really concerning. Murray's a different one. I think he'll be fine, but that's where I'm at with that one. I think Denver doesn't need to blow it up. They just need to make a few little small tweaks and just get healthy.
Yeah, they just didn't have enough. I mean, they played so well during the regular season with this, but in the playoffs, you need just that extra scoring. And look, Jokic averaging 31 and 13, but Golden State comes at you with Steph averaging 28, mostly off the bench. And then you got 22 from Clay and then 21 from Jordan Poole. And, look, your all-star scored 14. Wiggins scores 14. You know what I'm saying? Like, they just had too much scoring. And with Denver, look, they had valiant effort for sure. With Monte Morris averaging 14 and Barton 13.8 and Gordon 13.8 and Cousins even trying to chip in with 10. It just didn't have enough. They didn't have enough star power. Didn't have enough scoring. And Golden State did a hell of a job defensively. With it's funny, like everything you hear about Golden State's offensively, but what they can do defensively, especially with Draymond healthy, is as you had you were right there with it and you saw it every day. And it's a beautiful thing to watch. And that's just sort of what it is. And and for Denver, look, I don't think you got to see what you have with those two guys being healthy. I'm not a doctor, but I think Porter Jr. will struggle with that. It's not like a knee or, God forbid, an Achilles, like where you get it. But with sports science, it's been so great with the comebacks now with knees and Achilles. Like, look at what Dwight Powell's doing with his Achilles deal. He's coming he's full strength, a year and a half out. And I don't know with the back, though. Like, I haven't seen many good things with the back in a while as far as long-term, success with it. But who knows? Hopefully it does have it. I don't think they should make any, huge changes. Couple of, they'll have a draft pick and then, they'll have their draft and they could bring in some vet minimum guys and maybe a vet, a mid-level accept. Sorry about that, Bogues. But so maybe they'll have some of that. So I don't know. Couple of tweaks here and there, like you said, and they'll be right there. They'll be right back.
Yeah, exactly. Nothing too drastic, not panic stations for them. Phoenix, New Orleans. 4-2 for Phoenix. This was one of the best 1-8s I've seen in a long, long time, bro. I think it was a very, very good series. I think New Orleans should be very proud of the way they battled. This is kind of my point with Chicago. This is what it should have looked like. Atlanta. It should have looked like this series. They sort of lost, but they battled and gained a lot of respect. CP3, 22 and 11. He was phenomenal in the last two games, especially had that 14 for 14 game in the closeout. Ingram, 27, 6 and 6 was I think this is now becoming his team. The letdown of the series for me was CJ McCollum. He hit his 22 points, but really poor clips, 39% from the field and 33% from the three. Just not going to get it done in a playoff series. Jose Alvarado just earned himself an NBA deal for life, I think. He was phenomenal. Just those one percenters of Chris Paul didn't want to bring the ball up. I don't know if you noticed it, Pro, but he was when Alvarado was in the game, he was throwing it to the two guard and just trotting up the court because he was like, I'm not, it takes a lot of energy with that little hound dog on you and making you turn. And he picked him a few times and got a few 8-second calls. He was a phenomenal energy guy for them. It goes to show you that scouts can be wrong. He was in the G League for most of this season, and they bring him up, and he's just a ball of energy that you can play, 10 or 15 minutes a night in the regular season to give you a nice little punch. So good for him. He'll earn himself he'll be in the NBA for the rest of his career. Like I said, fantastic series. New Orleans should be proud. No Booker, so it made it a little bit more challenging for Phoenix, but CP3, his veteran savvy is still unmatched in this league. But for me, where to for New Orleans? I think they've got a good core. They're starting to get a good core together of guys that, CJ was quoted as he wants to re-sign there and be there the rest of his career. Now, you can take that as for what it's worth. We've heard, every player say that and then ask for a trade a year later. But that's what he said on record. Ingram's continuing to grow as a player. I think he's getting better and better. He's going to be a player for a long, long time. Zion's up for the contract extension and they're talking about doing it. We know that they have to do it no matter what, but I just worry that you bring him into the fold and things can potentially change because you're going to have that wrestle now of, is Zion that guy? It's going to be like, Ingram, this is still my team. He's still having those young guy battles about whose team it is. I hope that doesn't happen, but I could see it happening with Zion. But, it'd be interesting to see with him healthy what the team looks like moving on. But I like what they're building as a core. I hope Zion doesn't re-sign and derail that because I think they're trending in the right direction, and I'm looking forward to what they do in the offseason. Not a lot of moves they need to make, I don't think. Maybe another veteran or two, but I think keep this core together and they have a chance to be, potentially a second-round team next season.
Yeah, I mean, two things that was glaring. That Alvarado made himself a lot of money. And it goes to show you that it doesn't matter what anyone says about you, what anyone has you ranked or rated or what they think of you. If you have tunnel vision and you say, you know what, this is how I'm going to get in the league. I got a plan. I'm going to stick to it. I'm going to be tough. I'm going to be coachable. It's cool. But the biggest thing I think you learned out of this is Brandon Ingram is going to be a superstar. And, not a top 5 player, but I'd take him over Donovan Mitchell yesterday. I would, because I know what 100%. He can do. Yeah, I know what I can do. I had Mitchell rated ahead after Mitchell series and this series. I have Ingram definitely a top 15 to 17 player in the NBA without question. And I think that's what this happens. Like when you get hit with adversity and you're forced to do these things, you just keep getting better and better. Look, he wasn't mentally or like just maturity wise, he wasn't ready when he was in LA in his early years in New Orleans. But you know what happens every year? You get a little better. You get a little more professional. You get a little bit more, you start closing the gap on some of these weaknesses in your game on and off the court. And he's shown that, look, he could carry a team. And I think it's a good combination with Ingram and McCollum. I think that they should resign Zion because that's what they do. And what I would do, and I wouldn't tell any player that because it will get out in 2 seconds, but I'll say, okay, let's set our clock to about 12 to 18 months after he signs that deal. We're gonna just keep shopping it. We're gonna get him on the court. He needs to be able to put up numbers. Because for you to go on as an organization, you're going to have to get full value for him. And you got to make him look good, the best you can. And you got to keep Ingram in the fold. McCollum at that point will be 31, 32, still could probably help a team. And then you got all these role players like Herbert Jones and Nance and Alvarado and Hayes. You keep those guys in the mix. You keep drafting, but you get a load of you try to load up on whoever is desperate enough to give you a treasure chest back for Zion, and that's what you do because you're going to have to re-sign him because you can't really get a lot of value for him dealing him in his rookie deal. You're going to have to wait until you sign him, and to get, in my opinion, to get max value. So that's what I'm doing if I'm them. I love the Ingram deal. I think Ingram's going to be a hell of a player in this league. He had my respect before, but he has a lot of my respect now. As far as the Phoenix deal, without Booker, Booker sort of not 100%. It was tough, but they battled through it. Paul, Ayton, Bridges, the regular names. And look, I think obviously the big time playoff run last year to the finals, really, stuck this group together. They play hard. They play together. It's going to be a hell of a series of them in Dallas. I still think Dallas will beat them, but even with the full strength team. But I think that, they had a hell of a series and they battled through. I don't think a lot of people, once Booker went down with that hamstring, I don't think they gave him a lot of chances to, I thought a lot of people were crumbling a little bit about their chances to win that series. And, New Orleans pushed them to the edge. But, yeah, I'm looking forward to that Phoenix-Dallas series for sure.
Yeah, we'll get to that in a second. But, I think the same. I didn't really have a doubt that Phoenix would still win even without Booker because I knew all that's going to happen is the ball's going to be in CP3's hands more and he's going to get in the right shot every possession, and that's exactly what happened. So, I guess, yeah, it's positive for New Orleans. I agree with you on Zion. They kind of have to do it and then see where it goes, and then move him off a season where he's 20-10. Hopefully, if that's what they do. But if you're a New Orleans Pelicans fan, I think you're in good stead. So you should have some positivity going into the off season. All right, Dallas, Utah, Luka Doncic, 29, 10. And 6 a night, essentially, in 3 games. Obviously, he missed the first couple. And then Brunson was 27.8 and 4.2 assists. He was awesome for him. I mean, the best player for me would have been Jordan Clarkson, in my opinion, just because he shot good clips. He was 17.5 points at 55% from the field and almost 38% from 3 and almost 90% from the line. So I think he was probably their best reliable asset as far as shooting numbers. Bogdanovic was at 48%, so he wasn't horrible, and he averaged a little bit over Clarkson. Donovan Mitchell was 25.5 points on horrible clips. He was below 40% from the field. He was 20% from three, and then was 5 assists and almost 3 turnovers. So that's where that lies. But the horror series was Mike Conley Jr. He was really bad. 9.2 and 5 on 33% from the field and 20% from three with 2.2 turnovers. So something you're not accustomed to putting. Mike Conley is usually that savvy vet that's not going to turn the ball over. You're going to get the right shot. He takes the right shot, doesn't shoot bad shots, and he just had a bad series. I don't know what's up with that. Utah was just disappointing. I think their whole regular season was disappointing. They had a little run there mid-season when they went on a little hot streak, but they should have took advantage of Luka being out. It should have been, they squandered some games early on in that series. Dallas looked very good, Pro. I agree with you. I'm finally joining the Dallas ship a little bit. I think they're sinking together very, very nicely. They've got role players that understand their roles. They've got key defenders in key positions. They've got long wings. They've got athletic bigs. They play together, and in my opinion, they have the best star left in the playoffs. I think in Luka Doncic, I think he's the best star remaining. I mean, some might say Ja Morant, some might say Steph Curry, but I would say Luka Doncic is the best superstar left in the playoffs, and he's going to carry him now. The Jazz, Pro, they missed 78 of their last 100 three-point shots in that series.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you about the last play. I chimed in a little bit and got a little bit of pushback, but
I did. I saw that.
I think my point was that the curl was there. The curl was there, but looking at the replay, the pass was thrown early. But my point was that, I know they drew it up for a 3. The rule of thumb is if you're at home, you go for overtime. If you're on the road, you go for the win. So I think the play that was drawn up was a fantastic play, but I think there should have been a read on there where, if he chases you over the top with that whole side cleared out, and they had no one in the paint. If he curls that, that's a layup. No one's getting to him to foul him. And then on the pump fake, he wouldn't have got to the rim. I don't think people said he could have dribbled in and laid it up, but the Sun would have got there and fouled him at minimum. But what are your thoughts on it? I know it happens quick in split second. We can be hindsight heroes, but surely we know there's the emphasis on the 3. H-Bob chimed in and said, no, the 3 was good, numbers wise, and gave me some analytics. But just as a basketball player, I would look at that as like, I would, peek over my shoulder right at the point of the screen, and if I see my guys trailing, I hard curl it and just and then maybe you have a pick and pop shooter set in that screen so that if I curl and someone helps, I can pop back and then hit that 3. But I think it was a read and react play. It was a quick hitter, so it's hard to do in hindsight. But what were your thoughts on it?
My thoughts were they were so pathetic in the late third and most of the fourth quarter. I mean, they made
in multiple games. Yeah.
Yeah. And Utah made a great effort at the end. I didn't think they could even get in contention. I thought they were going to lay down, which they did. Again, most of that third quarter, they had a 10-point lead, maybe at halftime or heading into halftime. And then Dallas just did whatever they wanted. And I thought they were pathetic. I thought that they just let Dallas do whatever they wanted. And at the last play, like I said, they were so bad, you might as well have gone for the win and say, fuck it, because in overtime, we're going to get our ass kicked. Because Luka's like that Terminator that, like those thinkers, the Larry Birds, the Rondos, the Magic Johnsons, the real thinkers in the game when they were at high levels, of course, they just figure it out. And it's just, they're like cyborgs. And Luka just knows where to get the ball, when to shoot the ball. Not perfect, but the guy's just that smart. Look, there's difference between being a superstar that can get 30 and a superstar that could just tear you apart with passing and driving and shooting. And that's what he does. So for me, I thought Bogdanovich was their best player. I really liked how Jordan Clarkson played, but I thought Bogdanovich, when they needed baskets most of the series, that guy was very dependable. He had some, weak moments at times, but I thought he was really good. I thought he had a great look at it. I mean, shit. I mean, it was right there. He could, in my opinion, he could have done one dribble pull up as well, and he would have still got the shot off, and maybe he would have got more rhythm with it. But I'm good with it. I wasn't good with it just because it was a 3, but my thing was go for the win. Had a great look at it. You were wide open. Guy overplayed it, and you might as well have gone for it. I don't care. I get your logic though, home team playoffs, but they were so fucking bad. That, somebody's got to put a book out or something. What happened behind the scenes in that team? They're built like a good team. not a great team, but a very good team. And they were just so disappointing from probably January 1 on, maybe All-Star break on.
Well, they got all the pieces. That's what's weird. They got the superstar, quote unquote, in Mitchell. They've got a great 6-man punch with Jordan Clarkson. They've got a great second fiddle scorer in Bogdanovic. They've got a savvy vet in Conley Jr. Royce O'Neal's a good role player, physical defender. Rudy Gobert's an elite defender in the paint. It's like they've got all the pieces that you look on paper, but something's amiss. I think culturally in that locker room as well. I just don't think they get it yet. Joe Ingles, baby. You lose Joe, you lose Utah. So I think he was important. He was an important part of their team. I think he was a steadier. Like I said, you could move him to the point when when Conley goes out, you could move him to the point he'd get other guys involved. I think Rudy really struggled without Joe. Joe would get Rudy 2 or 3 dunks a game easily, either a lob or a drop pass out of the pick and roll. But Dallas moves on. Where to from Utah? I mean, where to for Utah? I mean, they're I said at the start of this season, if this doesn't get them to a second, third round, you have to almost blow it up. I just don't see how this team's potential is this. It's a first round exit team, maybe second round. Second round might be a championship. It's not working. I don't think it's a little tweak here or there. I think they're going to have to make a splash, and I think, we'll get to it in the fact or fake news, but there's probably going to be some trades in the offseason for Utah, and then Quinn Snyder as well. I mean, does he stick around or does he go? He's rumored to the Lakers again, and who isn't rumored to the Lakers, but he's rumored, and he will be sought out. I think he is a respected, good coach, but there will be a changing of the guard, and we know Danny Ainge is there, so he will have his fingerprints all over that roster.
Yeah, I predict a blow up, to be honest, and we'll talk about it in fact or fake news, but. Yeah, they're going to have to make a move. Those two guys, I don't care if they're best of friends or not best of friends. The perception is they're not. And then they need to move one of them or both of them.
That's Rudy and Mitchell you're referring to, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry, Rudy and Mitchell. Yeah, we talked about it for a while. And I think you're going to have to move one, if not both. And, it depends. Like, does Danny want to move both of them? And it's a big rebuild. Like, does Danny really want to be there until he's 70 years old? Danny's 63. You want to be there till you're 70, or you just want to put them in the right direction. And then, whenever you want to leave there, you leave there. But I'm predicting, there'll be some changes there, of course. It just doesn't make any sense. They have a good team. They have good defensive. It's just tough. And yeah, look, credit to Dallas. I mean, they played great. Jalen Brunson made himself, going into the series, I thought maybe definitely 20 a year. I think he might get upwards of 30 a year. I mean, the way he played, and carried them without Luka was very special. And obviously what Luka did, I thought Doncic stepped up. Reggie Bullock had a great. First of all, can that announcer on NBA TV stop calling him Bullock? Like, what the fuck is that? I thought it was Bullock, but maybe it's my Boston accent. I don't know. But I thought Bullock played great. I thought Dwight Powell played his role. I thought Maxey played well. I mean, they are a tough fucking out. And Josh Green still getting 10, 11 minutes a night. Doesn't do a hell of a lot, but he'll make a shot here and there. He'll make a play here and there when they need it. He won't be a huge factor in the playoffs, of course, but he's gotten a lot of development throughout the playoffs. But I think they're tough, man. I think, like I said, I think they're gonna make the finals. They might even win this thing. Luka Doncic, in my opinion, I think after these playoffs, I'll probably have him rated number 1 in the league. I think that this guy is, he's obviously been great this long the last few years, but what this guy can do for a team, because look, you look at it individually. Brunson's good, but look, I don't think Brunson's in your top 2 on a great team. I think he's probably a 3rd best player in my opinion, maybe 2.5. And then you got a bunch of these guys that are really good role players. And look, they got a good chance to get to the finals. It's not a 90% chance to get to the finals, but that they're rolling. They've rolled since the trading deadline, since they brought in Dinwiddie and Bertans. I mean, they're just rolling. It's like Boston. It's like offensively, defensively, the ball moves. They're close. This team's the most tight-knit team I've ever been around. I've ever seen. I've never been around a team that tight in my life. You just seem like they're pushing for each other. Everybody's going for it. Yeah. So I think they're going to be a tough out.
They are. They're playing really good basketball at the right time of the year. Memphis and Minnesota. Memphis goes 4-2 in that series. We both got that one right. Series leaders, Ja Morant, near triple-double for the series, 21.5, 10.5, and 8.7. Desmond Bane had a series with insane numbers. He was 24 points on 49% from the field, 48% from three, and 90 from the line. So that's that's an all-time series right there on shooting clips alone. And he takes some tough ones. Cat was 21.8 and 10, or 11 odd rebounds, few assists, and Edwards was 25.2. Led down in the series, D'Angelo Russell, welcome to the trade market, baby. 12 points on poor percentage, real poor percentage. It was in the 30s. Didn't really bring a lot. Lost a lot of his minutes to, was it McLaughlin? in that backup role. He played well in that last game. Very swingy series. It was very, very ugly at times. It was, I don't know that game. I don't know if you saw the game yesterday, but the first quarter was just they needed some circus music in the first 6 minutes because it was turnover, come down, turnover, deflection, out of bounds, bad shot. It was ugly, and a lot of the series was like that, but very swingy, man. Very, very swingy. Minnesota had multiple big leads early in the series and mid-series and just couldn't close. Funnily enough, every time Cat made some sort of meme-type reference to shushing the crowd or the comment in the timeout, we're in Minnesota now, when they were up 20, and they ended up losing both those games whenever he made those silly comments. But look, I think to be expected, I think it's a positive year for Minnesota, even though they got bounced. I think they fought hard in that series. They probably had people could argue they should have won that series, right? They won the driver's seat for a lot of those games. But I didn't have them in the playoffs because I just wasn't sold on that group, and I wasn't sold on Cat's maturity and what they had there. But they've taken a big step forward, and I think they're in a good spot to continue to build with this young group. You keep it together. I don't think they make any big splashes in the offseason. Maybe bring a couple of veterans in if they can that see that team potentially as a semi-final or a conference final team in the next couple of years, and you latch onto that bandwagon. But they're in good stead. I like where Minnesota's at for the first time in a number of years. They finally broke the playoff hoodoo, and not all sour milk for them. I think they should be proud of the way they've gone this season. Just young, dumb mistakes, bro. Just haven't been in the playoffs before, young and dumb, couldn't close games out, and they'll learn from this series, hopefully, and build next season. Yeah,
look, you did the hardest part. You got Anthony Edwards, who's going to be a superstar in the league, in the next couple of years. He's going to be, possibly a top 10 talent, right? I think Russell's the guy who doesn't really fit in what you're trying to do, in my opinion. I think that's bringing him in as ferocious as they tried to bring him in, and the assets that they had to shell out the door to get him wasn't really worth it. Now, he played pretty well during the regular season. I think he was around 18-7. He played well, but they got Edwards, who's their superstar. Towns, you can move if you want to. But you've got this team sort of playing the way they want to play, and they've got some success, for sure. And I think that they, when you have a superstar on your team and you've got all these role players that play well, you got Patrick Beverley and Vanderbilt and, guys like that just play hard. McLaughlin and, Naz Reid plays well. They pull for each other. They're tough. They play hard. And like I said, they got, Anthony Towns and Edwards could really carry the mail. And Russell at times can do some things. But I think they got to move Russell, to be honest with you. See if you can get some type of value. I don't think anybody's going to be begging you to get them sort of D'Angelo stuff. But maybe they view him as like a dimwitty, like a guy who could score points, and the team that needs a little bit more firepower might trade you something for him. And, maybe you just swap bad contracts for him, but you get another guy that will fit in a little bit more. Who knows? But it's interesting. Can you win with Towns going forward? But yeah, it's a weird deal in Minnesota, but I think they did really well. They not overachieved, but they played well. They upped their game. They're going to be, I think there'll be a top 7, top 8 team, maybe a top 6 team coming forward, maybe a little even better than that, but they're good. And the Western Conference is tough, as we know. Now you look at the other side, you look at Memphis, and I mean, man, what's not to like about Memphis? You've got you got great players. Obviously, you got John Morant. You got Desmond Bane, who's going to get a hell of a contract. He's going to probably get north of $30 million, and he's just done really well for himself. A guy that a lot of people passed up on. Jaren Jackson, obviously playing his game. Obviously the star in John Morant. It's they're going to be a tough out too. I mean, look, I think Dallas will win the West, but I mean, it wouldn't surprise me if these guys really put it on somebody and get to a conference final. And hey, who knows? I mean, why not? Like, I think the West is a little bit wide open. They play hard. They're a good team. Why not Memphis? But I think it'll be fun. The rest of the playoffs in the Western Conference for sure is going to be fun.
Yeah, I think both conferences are going to be great. And moving on to Memphis and Golden State. I think it's going to be a great series. I think I still have Golden State 4-2 again. I think it's going to be a small ball battle for the ages, bro. Steven Adams is out of the rotation anyway, but he does have COVID. But this is another series where they wouldn't play him anyway. I think they go small at times with a mobile five as much as they can. Who guards Morant to start is probably the question, and who do Golden State start? I mean, that's going to be the interesting one. Steph's back to full health. Do we see the same lineup as we saw in Game 5? Do they bring in a defender with, they have Wiggins starting on Morant? I think he'll probably get the start on Morant. Clay will have patches where he'll guard him. But I think it's going to be a really fun series. I saw Draymond Green's comments around Memphis, and he referenced something along the lines of Memphis is that team that just doesn't know, so they just play, which can be good and bad, right? They just play. They're just like, they're not. It's not that they're not scared of the moment. They don't know about the moment. They're just like, whatever, we just go and play. And that's how they are. They're a young team, kind of young and dumb, where they'll run through that brick wall and sometimes knock it down, and then sometimes they'll get flattened by it, and that's a good quality to have and a bad quality if it's put on the right track. So I thought that was an interesting quote by him, and I totally agree there. That's why they're dangerous, because I don't think they really wallow in mistakes. Like, they'll turn it over 5 straight possessions and still do the same thing the 6th time because they're not afraid, right? So real fun series there, but I think Memphis will get a wake-up call into what playoff basketball is against a great team that's going to make adjustments on the fly, that's going to tweak things. They're going to find certain guys to pick on in that series, both on the offensive end and defensive end, and they're going to get a wake up call to what it's really about. This is no Minnesota that's going to make the same mistakes we're making because they're a young team. They're going to if you beat Golden State, you can't have a 10+ turnover game. You can't have a game where you come up dry 4 straight possessions because they're just going to punish you to death. And the thing I noticed about Golden State to beat them, I tweeted about this last week, is Golden State's, no matter what the score is, they're going to make a run. And it's usually in that end of the 3rd, start of the 4th, mid-4th, they're going to make a run. So if you're up 10, they're going to make a run on you. Now, do you let that 6-0 run turn into an 18-2 run? That's the big one. And Popovich was great at this. He was notorious for taking timeouts to stem that flow. Notorious. Like, we had games where we come out 8-0 in the first quarter, and it'd be 4-0, he'd take a timeout because he knew, he felt the rhythm and the pace. We're getting our shot up in the first 10 seconds of a shot clock. Bang, 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 timeout. Like, I'm not messing with this. And the teams that get in trouble with Golden State is they let that 6-0 run affect them to get to, it ends up being a 30-12 quarter and you're out of the game. So if they can sustain that, that's where I think they'll have their problem, though, because they're young and dumb, and which I'm saying in a complimentary way is that Golden State might go on that run and they'll try to get that run back on them. We're going to shoot it straight back, and I think they're not there yet to do that. So I'm going 4-2 for Golden State, bro.
Yeah, I'm going to go 4-3 Golden State, which is tough because winning a Game 7 on the road is almost impossible in the playoffs. And I'm still going to go with Golden State, but I think it's going to be a tough series. I think it's going to be tough on both. I think that Morant is going to have to figure out, like you said, he's going to have to figure some things out. He's a superstar. He's going to be the one with everything on his shoulders. So he's going to have to figure some things out as far as his, being efficient, taking care of the ball, defensively, what to do. Got to get in the paint and live in the paint. Got to stop runs that Golden State has, because the experience thing is really, like you said, young and dumb is, good and bad. It's mostly good because, especially if you're the young team, but the veteran team that has the experience. Like you can go on a 10-2 run on a team like that, and they'll be like, all right, we'll make some tweaks and we're good, like coaching staff and players. So I don't think Memphis has enough. And I think even though they're the 2 seed and they get the higher seed and all, I do think that I think Golden State would win in 7, but it's going to be a hell of a series. It'll be fun. It'll be enjoyable.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that one. I'm looking forward to the next one too in Dallas, Phoenix. I think this one goes 7, Pro, and I think it's a coin flip. I think it is a coin flip. You can flip a coin. I agree with you. I think Dallas can steal this, but I'm just going to go with Phoenix based on home court. But I think this is going to be a close series and a coin flip. Luka's he's going to make some big shots and win him some games in this series. CP3 is going to grind him down. Booker's got to have a series as well. Aiden's probably the X factor for them. I mean, there's no real brute big. I think Dwight's, Powell's a very kind of technically, technically sound guy in your roster, but he's not going to be an intimidating factor to shut someone down. I think Aiden will probably have a series for them to get through, but I think this is going to be a phenomenal series. I'm really excited to see it. Dallas's pace has been slower now. I don't know. They played Utah, who's one of the slower paced teams in the league. So Dallas is just naturally was slow as well. Phoenix are a bit more faster. So it's going to be a good match to see the push or pull. I think Dallas likes to play in that moderate. They don't want to go full ball, but they don't want to go slow. They want to be, whereas Memphis is edging more towards that faster pace when they're in their flow. So that'll be interesting to see where the adjustments go there. But Brunson had a series offensively last series, but he's going to have a series defensively this series and just be sound against Chris Paul because he's going to get that matchup for the most part. You obviously don't want Luka. Luka's probably going to have to move to at times when Finney Smith's out, he's going to have to guard either CP or Bridges or Booker. So he's going to have to guard. They'll probably put him on Bridges early to try and keep him out of foul trouble and whatnot. But when they make some rotations, it'll be interesting to see. Foul trouble is going to be big for both teams at the guard spots, not so much in the big spots. And yeah, looking forward to this one, Pro. What do you got?
I think it's going to be fun. I think Dallas is going to win in 6. I just love the way they're playing. They reminded me a lot of their 2011 team. I've said this for a while. It's just like whatever you throw at them, it doesn't matter. They don't have true superstar after Luka, and same thing with Dirk. Like when he had an 11, and he just had all these players that played on the same page and they pulled for each other. I think that now. Look, Booker, the hamstring thing, he's probably been able to rest a little bit. I'm not sure. It might be a factor, it might not be. I just really like Dallas. I just think the way they're playing and they're just beating the shit out of everybody. And, regular season at the end and, in the playoffs, they've been really good. And yeah, I expect this to be 6. If it's 7, if it goes 7, that, Phoenix has a big advantage. If it goes 6, I think Dallas will pull it in 6. But if it goes 7, like I said, I don't know the numbers on it, but winning game 7 in on the road is beyond almost impossible in the NBA. But I expect a really good series, both ends. Chris Paul versus Luka, and just watching the ball movement, the shooting, Bridges, Dorian Finney-Smith, Crowder. I just love watching these guys. It'll be one of the most enjoyable series, right now in the semifinals in each conference. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to it.
Yep, let's see how it goes. Let's see if our picks can be right this time. We're pretty decent. We're pretty decent in the first round. A lot of Boston fans thanked you though. I noticed that on social media for picking Brooklyn. So they thanked you for the pro curse, which is good. But we did all right. I think we're about 600 or 700 on the picks, so not too bad. All right, moving on, a little bit of news. Jerry West is pissed, Pro. He's pissed. Now, you watched the show. I need to watch it. I
didn't watch it. I read the book.
Oh, you read the book? Okay, so I need to watch the show. So is the book exactly the show, or have they tweaked it? Do you know?
Yeah. Jeff Pearlman, who wrote it, wrote the book, Showtime. I forgot when it came out, maybe like 2017 or so. I read it on audiobooks. Great. And it's an unbelievable book. And
but is the book depicted exactly the same in the show, or have they fucked with
I got to watch the show because I haven't watched it, but like Jerry was a little tough back then, like he had a lot of a lot of shit to his game back then. And it's an interesting book. And I haven't seen this. I'm definitely going to get to the show this week, but I haven't watched the show fully. So
yeah, I got to watch it.
But pissed about it.
Yeah, but anyway, he's willing to take it to the Supreme Court, bro. So he's not too happy. He's quoted as saying the series made us look like cartoon characters, and they belittled something good. HBO has fired back and said, Winning Time is not a documentary and has not been presented as such. Its depictions are based on extensive research and reliable sourcing, and HBO stands behind it. So, interesting quote, because they've said it's not a documentary and it's not presented as such, but then they go on to say, we did extensive research and reliable sourcing. So, which is it? Have you depicted it based on true events, or haven't you? So, I think that comment itself is pretty not too good from their argument, in my opinion. But the logo is not happy, so it will be interesting to see where that goes if it does go to the Supreme Court. But they do make, from what I've heard and read, I haven't watched the show. I need to watch it. Is they've made Jerry West look like a bumbling, swearing maniac that just has no tolerance for anybody, really. So
I've heard he's got a short temper, like especially back in those days. I heard he's got a very short temper. Good dude, but very short temper, very emotional guy.
Well, I've been with him. I mean, he was with Golden State with us, and I didn't see that. All I saw was he's a guy that's direct. Like, you're not having an hour meeting with him to get to the point. He's getting to the point in the first 30 seconds, and I respect that. I'd rather do that. I don't like running around in circles. How's your family? And then we slowly get to the point.
No, he ain't that type.
He's walking in and saying, hey, man, you fucking suck last night. Pick it up next game, box out, get some rebounds for us. What the fuck are you doing? Literally, that's the conversation. And that's not a bad thing. But the show really poured a lot of mayonnaise on that.
Dude, the book is ridiculous. The book, it's a couple of points of the book. So they wanted Jerry West to coach the team. This was like in the 70s before they drafted Magic. So they wanted Jerry to do it. He didn't want to do it. And so they were going to hire Jerry Tarkanian. You remember Jerry Tarkanian, right?
Yeah, UNLV,
coach
right?
UNLV?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah, coach UNLV. They were going to hire him. He had his agent, who was like a lawyer from Vegas, negotiate the deal. He took the job. Well, he starts calling his agent, can't find his agent. Agent's murdered by the mob in Vegas, and they stuff him in his Cadillac. It was one of the almost unbelievable story I ever met. And then the boosters didn't want to lose Jerry, so they kept on prolonging him taking the job because he was so distraught that the guy died. So the boosters talked him into staying, and that's how he stayed. But they were going to hire Jerry Tarkanian. They offered him the job twice. Another story that was great, well, not so great, but this guy, Jack McKinney, he was like an assistant coach in the NBA for Portland. Milwaukee.
Yeah, I've heard of him. Yep.
He's the head coach. He creates Showtime. He wanted Magic Johnson. He wanted to play fast, all that stuff. I think he was with Kareem in Milwaukee. But he knew that he needed Magic. So he's coaching the team. In preseason, this poor prick, he's got Paul Westhead as his assistant coach. This poor prick, his wife takes the car. So this guy has, he wants to, I think she took it to church. So he's trying to get to a tennis game. He played tennis or whatever on off days during the preseason. This fucking poor prick drives his bike, gets in an accident, gets a brain injury, and can't coach the team. So they take the Westhead's the coach. They got they hire Pat Riley out of the radio booth to be an assistant. Didn't want to coach, but fuck it, he just decides to coach, and they win a championship. They win a championship, and then Magic, just like Riley did when Riley had Showtime and everything moving, and then he went to New York and Miami and he slowed it down. This brawler type basketball. Well, that's what the Westhead did, and then Magic started hating this guy and got him fired, and they fucking hired Pat Riley to coach the team. But a lot of great stories, a lot of player drug use, sex with multiple women. It was a free swinging environment for sure.
HIV.
And HIV, unfortunately, yeah. Jerry West. It's funny, Magic had a lot of LeBron in him because he was really close to Bus. And so he would get guys would like D him up hard in practice and like try to fight him in practice, get in a scuffle. He said, "You're fucking gone tomorrow." And those fuckers would be fired by the next day. Supposedly he had sexual relations with, swinging time with Bus and some girls, on a regular basis. So they were very close. And, so it's an unbelievable book. I read it over the All-Star break, one of those years in Dallas. And I guess the story's supposed to be reflection of. I'll
have to check it out. It's on some weird streaming service in Australia though that I've never heard of, so I need to check that out. Anyway, my former teammate, pro, and now I assume former assistant coach of the Utah Jazz, Keon Doolin, arrested.
Oh no, I think he's in the front office, isn't he?
Oh, was he?
Yeah, I think he's in the front office.
Okay, whatever he is, he'd be a former employee. I swear I saw him on court when Joe Ingles was there, but maybe he was just chatting. Anyway, arrested for fraud as part of the suit that we mentioned a few months ago regarding the NBA health fund activities, where they were putting in false claims. Now, Keon's a very happy-go-lucky guy. I enjoyed him as a teammate. Always smiling, always bantering. My issue is that he was with the PA as a mentor for many years also. And
kiss of death.
Oh man, but it's just Antoine Walker's doing things now, I assume as well. I've heard as well. It's like some of the guys that are involved in these mentors and guest speakers and involved with the Players Association, they're not the best guys to have around mentoring players. Is my point. And when you're committing fraud while you're on, or I assume this was before he got his job with the Utah Jazz, it's just not a good look. So just another guy linked up with that. I don't really have a bad thing to say about him from the dealings I had. I enjoyed him as a teammate. Had no issues with him. He played hard for us when he was in Milwaukee, but you just hate to see this, especially when they had a title as mentor for the Players Association.
Yeah, I mean, look, I always say, if you're going to go down for like $5 million.
Exactly.
Don't go down for like 50 grand, 100
like
grand.
$5,000 invoices.
Yeah, come on, man. Don't go down for that. Go down for something like 5 or 10 million.
But it also tells me, pro, that there's trouble financially for those people. There's severe trouble.
Yeah,
if they're taking those risks for $4 or $5,000 here and there, must not have done well financially. That's probably the glaring thing in all of this. Yeah,
it is. It's it's financial literacy. That's the number one thing that people in general, forget about basketball players, but people in general, they need to be educated earlier in life about this stuff. But the NBA, look, I mean, I'm not a big Players Association fan. I think it's a fucking scam. But I think that they do try to educate you while you're playing about financial literacy. And
it's such a box tick though, pro. It's such a box tick. It's not. I totally agree with you. It's the fees that we're paying. It's at times such a box. They do it to tick a box. We're helping you, and it's like, are you really? We got, we have a guy come in that was, I'm not going to name his name, but he was a drug addict while he played, and every time he comes in, he tells jokes about how he smoked crack, and it's like, dude, we get it, and it's like, I get it. You want to be confronting with it about how bad it is, but the guys think it's cool. He's talking about, I was fucking hosed and smoking crack and doing this, and guys are laughing about it, thinking it's cool. And it's just it's a box tick, and that's what kills me with it. I mean, how do you change it? Get some people in that are the best of the best. That's my opinion. Pay them to come instead of putting these guys on a salary, which Keon Dooling was when he was there, and other guys are making $100 grand a year to be on the payroll of the Players Association. Just pay a guest speaker $20 grand for that. Get the best. Give me the best of the best. Give me the best of the best. But it is becoming a racket where there's a big budget and they can just employ former players. Yeah, I agree. I mean, look, it's an old boys network, and just they want to hire ex-players, and that's what they want to do. And look, I get it. There's some things that ex-players are good at, but I wouldn't hire them in those types of spots though, because most players are not financially, they're not fiscally responsible. They don't act accordingly. So it's not really good to mentor. I had a lot more probably influence and better judgment on talking to young players than most veterans do, because especially
especially if you have a rookie that's just going to make it, right? Like maybe be a mid-level guy tops in his career. And you're talking like a guy making 28 million is trying to tell him about stuff. It's like LeBron trying to relate to a guy who's a second round pick. You can't, because you never lived that life before. So like, and they're just not responsible with their stuff. Most of them, not all of them, but most of them. And then you hire them in these spots and they're not doing anything except just hanging out, and they're just talking it up. You can't be like that. Not all players are like that, but
or they can tell you the bad. They can tell you all the bad shit, but you're like,
they can tell you the bad.
How did you fix it? Like, oh no, don't worry about that.
Yeah. Like, I wouldn't want Antoine Walker or Vin Baker talking to me about fiscal responsibility. I said, really, dude? You blew 9 figures, and I'm friends with both those guys. I know both those guys pretty well, and like you said, like talk to them about the war story. No doubt about it. They should tell you about the war stories. Allen Iverson, the war stories about blowing that money. But like you should have somebody that has an education in that and a history in that and experience in that, talking to these players to really get them on track. But like, let's be honest, like you do care, but if they're not being fiscally responsible and they're putting up 28-7, does the team really care at the end of the day?
Shit. Yeah.
No, they're going to ride them for that 28-7 until it's up. And then everybody's going to be like, oh, poor this guy or poor that guy. Well, no, you knew it was a fucking problem and nobody really did anything for the kid. Whatever. It's a poor thing. You never want to see it, but it is what it is.
Yeah, I was shocked to see it because, like I said, it's not a character that you're assumed to do that. But is what it is. All right, Miami linked to Donovan Mitchell. That was a small leak. And the reason I brought this up is this the ultimate Trojan horse from Miami? Dwayne Wade's in that locker room, bro.
Yeah,
this could be all time. This could be all time. If this happens, oh my goodness, you let the fox in with the hens, Utah.
No doubt. But the thing about it, though, here's the problem that any team that's going to be dealing with Utah, Danny Ainge is the worst guy ever to trade with. He will take every ounce of talent you have to get anything from him. He is relentless with negotiating. He's the best. And so like he doesn't care. If he says, well, I'm going to New York, he is not going to fold. If they give him full like power with this, which I assume they will, he will take like if Miami wants him, it's going to take Hero. It's going to take you're going to take major pieces from that team. He's not going to take an expiring contract and a couple of picks. He is going to take you your family members might be bankrupt of how much money he's going to take from you as far as to make a deal.
This is assuming Donovan re-signs, right? Or signs the extension.
I think he's got. Hold on. I got my database up. Hold on. Give me 2 seconds. Change team. Utah. So Mitchell's got, no, fuck no. Bogues. He's not a free agent until 26. So he's got 28. No, he's got 28 this year, 30.4 next year, 32.6 in 23-24, 34.9 in 24-25, and a player option for 37. So he's in.
Yes, he signed it last season. Was it last season or the season before?
I'm not sure when he signed it.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Yeah, it must have been last season. Yeah, I missed that one.
Yeah, so that's the thing. Ainge will take you for everything you got. So, like, if he goes to New York, it's going to be R.J. Barrett. I don't think Robinson's his type, but maybe Robinson.
A shitload of picks.
Multiple picks. It depends on what Ainge
2034.
Yeah, it depends on what you want to do. It depends. Like, look, the new thing to do is all these pick swaps and picks. Like, but do you want to totally blow the thing up? Do you want to keep Mitchell and a bunch of these players around? Do you want to keep Rudy and a bunch of these players? I doubt it. If I was a betting man, both those guys are out and they're going to get a treasure chest. Now, do you want to do a sign and trade for Brunson and then bring in all these other players, young guys around him? You're not going to build a team around Brunson, but he's going to be a really big fixture. Like, depends, but it depends what Ainge wants. You got 2 really big pieces, but if he's going to go to Miami, I would assume it's going to be at least, because Ainge wanted to draft Hero in Boston. He was high on Hero. I forgot what happened that draft. I'm not sure what happened, but he wanted Hero badly, and he loves him. So he will definitely be in the trade if something like that happens. But it'll be interesting.
Yeah, no, I just noticed it. I just saw it as soon as my name was linked. I was like, "Oh, D Wade."
Yeah, that's funny.
Nothing might not. Might not happen, but we'll see. Sacramento down to its final 4 candidates, bro: Mark Jackson, Mike Brown, Clifford, and Doug Christie. So,
of course, Doug Christie.
That will be interesting. I wonder if Doug Christie's wife will still follow him around at the back of the bus when he's coaching. For those,
yeah, she'll move closer. She'll move closer.
For those that don't know, when he was a player, I think he got a little cheeky on a road trip and admitted it to his wife, and from that day forward, she was in a car behind the team bus on every road trip. The moment he landed off the plane, I heard also he'd have to be on the phone to her for most of the time as well to make sure he wasn't on the phone to anyone else. That was interesting. But Mark Jackson has a real strong chance, I'm hearing. So will be interesting to see. I hope that happens. Go through the nil rule in college basketball, pro. You're telling me college basketball is wrecked. It's gone. It's done. The nil rule is that stands for the name, image, likeness. So players can now get paid for their name, image, likeness. But what it's done is it's created a bidding war, and it's also created essentially trade scenarios, quote unquote, in college basketball, pro.
Yeah. So basically, this has been coming up for a while now, the last few years, about NIL and name, image, and likeness. And I thought it was going to be like, you could be in some commercials and, maybe run a camp or signing at a mall. But these players are getting, not all of them now, of course, but a lot of the big time schools like Duke, North Carolina, Kentucky, Louisville, the big time is Texas, and it's all sports. And the major revenue sports, their players, they're signing deals of $300,000, $400,000, cars, Porsche deals. And it's unbelievable, the money and some of the things that changes hands. And the problem that happens is, like, there's a kid that's coming over from Kansas State that's transferring to Miami. And there's a big billionaire in Miami that's given NIL deals to about 30 athletes in Miami, all types of sports. And they gave this guy a reported 2-year, $800,000 deal. And one of the players on Miami said, well, if they don't up my deal that I already have, I'm out. I'm in the transfer portal. Now, I think he's moved back on that since that article came out a day or two ago. But now that's essentially what's going to happen. And what's going to happen, Bogues, is no one's going to want to go, like no good player is going to want to go to a mid-major school anymore. They're going to go to all these like big time schools that already have all these NIL money to all these boosters and companies that really give to the program.
And also, Florida state law doesn't permit schools to be involved in the NIL deals. So I assume if you go to a Florida state school, any of them, Miami or whatever, you have to get the deal from a third party. So that's a big hindrance too. Some schools can be involved in those deals, right?
Yeah. So state to state, it's going to be different in most states. So like they're going to have their own laws, but it's going to cause so many headaches. And look, it's funny, like everybody kills the NCAA. We talked about it last year in depth about, how much money they make, and the kids don't make any money. Poor kids. And now like the NCAA says, okay, fuck it. You guys make whatever you want, NIL. And now everybody's complaining about the NCAA not stepping in on it. So,
and there's a billionaire involved. There's a billionaire.
Yes, the guy's a billionaire.
There's a billionaire named John Ruiz. He's been at the forefront of NIL deal movement, orchestrating deals across several sports, even going towards women's college basketball. He's done 111 deals signed or pending with Miami Hurricanes athletes to promote his companies. So he's got companies called Life Wallet, Cigarette Racing, blah, blah, blah. So I assume there's going to be more billionaires, or what they're formerly called, school boosters, that are going to be involved in doing this. But it's when you see that report of Nigel Pack, $800,000 over 2 years plus a car, at time of his signing with Kansas, he was a Kansas State transfer. I mean, it's becoming ridiculous, and there's no clear cut rules. That's the problem, and that's what people are saying. The guidelines are kind of open ended. And there's sports agencies and reps out there that are going, right up to the line of what they can legally do, and there's no real hard marker on whether they can stop. And I think, there are guys making over $1 million votes, like in those, and Kentucky, like all of North Carolina went back to school. It's unbelievable. You know what I would do? Look, we don't have to talk about it at long length, but what I would probably do
is I would cap it. I would make it like an NBA contract. Like the more years you're in school, the more money you can make from it. But like they're going to have to do something, because the problem is both. If you just say, okay, you can make whatever, and this is going to happen. Like I go to Kansas State, right? Not Kansas, North Carolina. All those guys are going to make big time money. Well, like if I go to like, say I go to, I don't know, Virginia, and I'm making 900, and then like I'm a guard in the team, starting guard, and I'm making 125. And I like, well, up the deal and I'm gone. That's what you're going to create. And there's no way you can probably get up to that 900 or even close to it. But if you cap it at like 500 or 400, like let them make a lot of money. Look, if you make 500 in college, I mean, come on, you're doing pretty fucking well. Let's be honest, right?
100%.
So you make
but it's gone from like this is the extremes of the world, right? It's gone from athletes making no money, where arguably when I was there, it was like, just give me $4 or $5 grand a semester, I'm living like a king in college, to now I want $1 million plus. It's like, fuck, like you've gone from nothing to $1 million. And I get it. Like some players are worth that endorsement wise, but it's gonna cause massive issues long term.
You know what I would do if I was the NCAA? So why don't you share it with all the athletes now? Why don't you share your 500 grand with all your athletes, like you tell us to do with all our money
on the team?
So, yeah, I think.
Yeah.
What? Yeah. But you know what I'm saying.
And then Title IX, you got to share it with the women's teams.
Exactly. Yeah, it's crazy.
It's
crazy.
It's not good. It's taken away from college. I wasn't positive on the whole paying athletes nothing. I think they should get something. I think my thing was just cost of living. You get a degree out of it. You get a great experience. Give athletes enough so they can enjoy themselves and go to the movies and get a meal, but they don't need to be driving around a fucking Bentley at school. Like that's where I draw the line. But
it's sort of like the WNBA argument, right? I'm all for wanting to pay WNBA players $3 million a year. I'm all for it. The problem is you can't support it financially, right? You can't. It just doesn't work. Yeah. So the college, same thing. You can't, because there's going to be millions of lawsuits because of all the players wanting to get paid, every athlete from every team, men and women, but you can't afford to pay everybody or you'll bankrupt the whole system. So yes, I'm all for players getting as much money as you can, but you just can't make it work. It's not going to work under the system. It can't be done. So I say you cap it, and I say you give them an incentive for staying in school longer by giving it like 500, 750, $1 million, 1250.
Yeah, I like that.
That's
fair enough, because then at least you're keeping them in there. So I like that idea, but I think it needs to go down much more. I would even go to like 100, 200, 300. I don't think you need
whatever it is.
Yeah, exactly. But the numbers get thrown out are just crazy. Anyway, let's get on to the NBL real quick. The award winners were all announced. MVP, Jalen Adams, Sydney Kings. So got that one right and much deserved. Best two-way player in the league. The fans MVP pro. So the NBL has a thing where fans can vote for their MVP. It was rated by the Philippines pro. Kai Soto won that one. So they had a bunch of people obviously voting. Usually it's someone that is an MVP candidate, but not this season. So congratulations. Coach of the year was Scott Roth, much deserved. Sixth man of the year.
Of course.
Yeah, sixth man of the year, Shea Ely. Rookie of the year, Bull Coel. Most improved player, Keanu Pindo. Defensive player of the year, Antonio Cleveland. Referee of the year, can't forget our refs, Vaughn Mayberry. And executive of the year.
Was he the guy that stole the tape or no?
That was WNBL.
My fault.
But they're all, you paint them all the same brush, right? Refs are refs.
Yeah.
And Simon Edwards, which was a strange one, was executive of the year, New Zealand Breakers. I don't know the metric of this, and no offense to the New Zealand Breakers or Simon Edwards. They had a hell of a last 2 years being on the road. But usually in the NBA, at least, the executive of the year is the best constructed team on paper. Well, New Zealand finished dead last and only won, I think, 5 or 6 games. So I don't know what the metric was. Like I said, I'm ignorant to that, but that was one I scratched my head at. I thought it'd be someone in the top 4. Chase Buford Pro was fined by the NBL $10,000. This could be probably the biggest fine I've seen in the NBL. as close as I've followed the NBL.
What did he do?
He went a little rogue towards the referees and officials. We'll just leave it at that. But look, as an owner, I'm saying this. I think it's deserved. The fine's deserved. He needs to take it on the chin. I think he'll be the first to tell you that he probably deserves that as well. He's very passionate, which I cannot fault. I've had my run-ins with referees, but I think he overstepped the mark. I've definitely overstepped the line, but the 10,000 I think is a big wake-up call. And like I said, I think I have to have some people look back, but this is one of the biggest fines I've seen in history for coach referee run-ins. So That's interesting. Illawarra versus Sydney was on Friday night. I went to that game. Game 1 goes to the Sydney Kings on the back of a 30-9 second quarter by the Sydney Kings. Huge. Jalen Adams solidifies his MVP vote with 36-5. Absolutely fantastic. Someone who doesn't get a lot of credit from people out there. Wasn't even in the top 3 for Defensive Player of the Year voting. Was Wani Swaka Low Bullock with the Sydney Kings. He's our Finney Smith. He did a phenomenal job on Tyler Harvey. Just made him work for everything. So much so that they moved Tyler Harvey off the ball late game, and they put the ball in Cleveland's hands at times, and they put it in Rathan May's hands. So he's been huge. Cleveland was really big for Illawarra early. He hit some tough shots. Very, very good in the open floor in transition. He had a really big first half, but that second quarter cost Illawarra. They made a little charge in the fourth, but they couldn't get it back. We won by 10. Game 2, I kind of chatted to Luke Longley and even Paul Smith before the game, and this game went exactly as I thought it would. I thought that, not for the reasons I thought, but it went the way I thought it would. I thought that Illawarra would come out and punch the Sydney Kings, and the Kings would have to grind back into the game and then, steal it late, essentially, stay in the game and keep it close and then take over in the fourth quarter. And it went that way, but it wasn't so much the Illawarra Hawks doing early. It was the Sydney Kings doing early. We essentially punched ourselves in the face. What I mean by that is we turned the ball over in the first half a lot. We had 10 turnovers in the first half. A lot of them were live ball turnovers. What I mean by that for your listeners is we turned it over to an Illawarra Hawks player who then just dribbled up and had a layup at the other end. So there's coaches out there that will say if you're going to turn it over, I'd rather you just kick the ball into the top level of the arena, turn it over and get our defense set, because when you turn over a live ball, you can't get your defense set, and our defense has been pretty good. But they were they capitalized on that. They outscored us by 10 in the first half. They had a 10-point lead going into the half, mainly in that third quarter, and we just struggled to get in the flow with our turnovers. So something that we had to clean up. They also kicked our ass on the boards in the first half. They got to all the 50-50 loose balls before us, and they outplayed us in that first half, and we kind of deserved to be down 10. And we made an adjustment. We made a few adjustments with a few little tweaks with what we were doing with the ball, making things a little bit simpler in that second half. We weren't messing around with the ball and making lazy passes. And Holdsby know when you don't turn the ball over, you have a quarter in the third quarter that goes 25-13 and gets us the lead back. So we end up winning that game, that quarter, quite easily, and then going on to the next quarter, we capitalize 30-20 once again. But the game was closer than the end result, 99-87 for the Sydney Kings. It was much closer than that. It took some really heroic shots from Jalen Adams once again. Finished with 29, 7 and 3, but some real timely shots towards the end of that game. Real timely shots. Step back 3, basically to ice the game late. Jarrell Martin once again was really big, and he had 23 and 9. But what he did defensively was awesome for us. 2 big charges at different points of the game. Won't show up on a stat sheet. That was huge. Xavier Cooks was everywhere again. 16 and 11. With 3 assists, 4 blocks and a steal. He was phenomenal. And Ian Clark off the bench has just been a godsend for us, both on the court and off the court in the locker room. He's been awesome for us, and he finished with a quick 17 in 23 minutes. So he was big, made some timely buckets for us. Late, got to the free throw line, knocked them down. And it is 2-0 for the Sydney Kings. That's all she wrote in that series, and the Sydney Kings advance to the grand final. Moving on to Melbourne United versus the Tasmania Jack Jumpers. Your Tasmania Jack Jumpers, bro.
Yes.
The series is tied 1-1. I hope you got up early and watched that game last night.
I didn't, but I was with them in spirit.
You got to watch game 3 now. So anyway, Melbourne, they beat them up in game 1. They won. They cruised to victory. Goes back to Tasmania for game 2, and they get the win. They played a very physical style of basketball. Tasmania still has stretches where they couldn't score. Melbourne United was something like, I think, 6 for 34 from 3, which cost them dearly, or maybe even worse than that. And Tasmania win that game in a close one to the end. It is 1-1 going back to Tasmania. I believe that game is tomorrow Australian time at about 7 or 8 p.m. So you got to set your alarm, pro, and watch your Scott Roth. If they win that game, which I can't pick, I'm picking Melbourne United in Melbourne. But basketball gods, if you can get Tasmania to win that game, it would be absolutely epic. Like that, I think Scott Roth would do cartwheels and breakdance.
I would love to be his assistant. If they have an assistant opening, Bogues, you got to get me in with that guy, man.
Yeah, that's great for them. And this is New Orleans Phoenix series to me. For them to get a win in that series is invaluable for their long-term growth, and that is fantastic. So should be commended. And finally, Australian-wise, I'm hearing that there will be a bronze medal celebration series in Melbourne sometime mid-year, which will be, I'm not sure who it's against. I don't believe it's going to be against anyone good, but it will be a 2-game series the Boomers will play sometime soon. And I'm also hearing Brian Goorjian is back to coach the Boomers till the 2024 Olympics. I'm pretty sure my mail is correct on that. Hasn't been announced yet, but I'm pretty sure it's right. So I think that's the right decision. He had a hell of a run with the bronze medal. He'll steer that group hopefully to bronze or better in the first off the World Championships in the Philippines in 2023, and then 2024 in, I believe it's Paris. So that'll be great. All right, bro. Useful or useless? Trae Young's line. Game 1, 1 field goal, 6 turnovers. Game 2, 10 field goals, 10 turnovers. Game 4, 3 field goals and 5 turnovers. Game 5, 2 field goals and 6 turnovers, bro.
Yeah, useful. I mean, obviously, is a big reason why they weren't as effective. I mean, you're turning the ball over 6 times a game. It's not in general. I mean, obviously, anybody can have a bad series, but it's useful in that series. It cost them. He was just too loose with the ball. They were tough with him, and he just turned the ball over. You can't turn the ball over and try to be successful. You can't turn over the ball like that and think you're a superstar and play like a superstar. You can't do that. You put your tiny team in too much of a harm's way. I say it's useful. What do you say?
Yeah, useful. I think they need to get a Brunson or a Dinwiddie or someone that's a secondary Jordan Clarkson, someone like that. They can, when Trae's having those nights, you can go to a secondary auction. Bogdanovich is kind of there, but not so much a creator off the dribble and for others. They need to find that second guy that can get you that. So definitely useful. All right, the Warriors went 1,073 days between playoff series wins. Useful or useless?
Useless. I mean, in the sense that, look, they were hurt, they were hurt. So they were injured. There was no way they were going to really make impact in that last couple of years without the players who were missing. So, I mean, it's a hell of a stat. Don't get me wrong, but I just think because of the injury.
Not. You had it right first. It's useless. It's Sports Center facts. It's a clickbaity type thing. Look, even the Warriors go wild. When you factor in everything, it's as useless as can be, I believe. So you hit that one on the head first. Your guy, Finney Smith, has contested 93 shots this playoffs, second to only Joel Embiid. He's holding opponents to 39.8% on those shots, bro. Useful, useless?
Useful. He should be first team all defense. The guy's phenomenal defensively.
Yeah. And the flip side is he's shooting 3-ball well again. He's gotten
that. Oh, no, he's Michael Cooper. Yeah. No, he's Michael Cooper. Like, if you watch the Lakers in the 80s, I was the only guy in the Mavs room that raised his hand to draft a guy in the second round. We had a chance. Thankfully, he signed with us. But I saw Michael Cooper in him so much because I knew his shot will get better. And I knew defensively he was going to be really good. And there's only a couple of guys that he really can't fuck with defensively, but I'd say he could defend 95% of the players in the league at his position. And 90 to 95%. He's phenomenal at it. Phenomenal. He's done a great job. Mm-hmm.
Yep, useful. All right, the Mavericks have won their first NBA playoff season since 2011 finals. The Rick Carlisle effect. Useful or useless?
I say useless, and I'll tell you why. They just weren't good enough to win. Look, they didn't win a playoff series in 10 fucking years. So, I mean, that's a huge deal. 11 years, it's a huge deal. But if you watch the teams, and I was a part of every team except the last couple, they just weren't good enough to win a playoff series. They were good enough maybe last year with against the Clippers for sure. The last couple, even the bubble, but those right after 2011, they scrapped most of the team in 12 and they were bad. And I got there 13. Then we played San Antonio. I think we pushed San Antonio to 6 games. Or I don't think it was 7, but I think it was 6. No, 7 games. And we got thrashed in the 7th game. And then we stole a game with Vince Carter making a shot at the buzzer. And then Houston, we had no fucking chance. I have a better chance of like beating Shaquille O'Neal in the fucking post than we did, beating Houston that year. And then Oklahoma City, no chance. And, I just think that they didn't really have a chance to win. They only had last year when they blew the series, when they were down, they were up 3-1 or 3-2, and they could have clinched it and they ended up losing. But I say it's useless just because they weren't good enough. What do you say, Bogues?
Yeah, I would agree somewhat, but the last couple of years they were good enough.
Sure, yeah.
But I'd ask you this. Would you take a first-round exit every season for 10 years if you had a championship on one of those years? So Dallas is a prime example. You win a championship at any time in the last 11 years, but all the other years you're either not in the playoffs or you're out in the first round. Would you take that?
Yeah, you win a championship. I mean,
exactly. You take it. You take it. Like look at the Utah Jazz. They've never won one. So if you told them today, hey, you win a championship this year, but it's going to be shitty for the next 10, you take it.
Yeah. Regardless, folks, look, you can go as deep as you want. You go 8 straight years of not like look at like Utah when they had to play Chicago, right? And they lost 2 straight finals. Like, yeah, like pat in the back, Buffalo Bills, they made like 3 straight Super Bowls. Like pat in the back, you made it that far. You're a great organization, but at some point you're going to get too old. You have to restructure your team, and then 7 more years of obscurity. But if you win a championship, that's all they give up. That's all people give a fuck.
100%.
Yeah.
Yep, I agree. So looking back on that, I think it's useless, but they definitely should have got through a few more than they did. Last one, the Sydney Kings are the first team in NBL history to win 11 consecutive road games in the same season after their last win at Illawarra in Game 1 of the semifinals, bro. Useful or useless?
Say that again, Bogues.
So the Sydney Kings are the first team in NBL history to win 11 consecutive road games in the same season.
Oh, that's definitely useful, man. That's a hell of a fucking accomplishment.
It's big time.
Yeah. Now, if you didn't own the team, I would say it was useless as shit. But since you own it,
fired.
Yeah, I say it's useful.
11 road wins in an NBL season. There's only 14 road games in a regular season. Then you got finals. That's impressive, in my opinion. So hopefully, for some reason, we're one of those teams that plays almost better on the road. I think we're a bit more locked in and a bit more threatened. And sometimes at home, we come out in cruise control sometimes. So hopefully that's behind us. All right, what do you got? Fact or fake news?
Folks, the Bulls break up their core in the offseason. So they will break up at least one of their top 3 players, Ball, Vucevic, or DeRozan, in the offseason this season.
Fake news. They're not going to break up their core. I think they're going to tweak some things. They're not going to make any moves. I just don't see why you would. They've finally got back to the playoffs, even though they didn't put up a lot of fight. I think they can build off this, a la Minnesota, a la New Orleans, make some tweaks maybe. Maybe bring a bit more shooting in, as I said earlier. They need some shooting and maybe a brute big man. But, yeah, I think that's fake news.
Kyrie Irving will re-sign with the Brooklyn Nets.
Oh, or will the Nets re-sign Kyrie? That's a question, I guess.
Well, yeah, the Nets, yes. The Nets will re-sign.
I don't know. There's questions. They're trying to link games played to his deal. That's enough to set Kyrie off to not re-sign. If you're the Nets, I think you kind of have – what else are you going to do? I mean, so I'd say fact, they need to keep him as they have to deal with the baggage. He's a unique talent. You just got to get it back on the track. So they need to have a little come-to-Jesus meeting with him and go from there. But, I think fact that they have to re-sign him.
Yeah, I say fact. I mean, look, you're all in on this thing. You're all in on the fact that you get Simmons. It's bad enough you get Simmons and not knowing if he's going to play or not. You're gonna have to get something. Look at this team in the playoffs. I mean, imagine them without Kyrie in the playoffs, in a lethargic Ben Simmons instead. It's just not – I think you just got to deal with it. And I think, like I said, he's a superstar, but you got to deal with a lot of fucking headaches with that superstar status. So I say it's fact. They will re-sign him. Last but not least, definitely not least, Utah will trade both Rudy and Mitchell this offseason.
Fake news, not both. I think they'll trade one or the other, though. I think Rudy's going to be the odd man out. So to your statement, I will say fake news. They're not both gone, but I think I'd love to get in the mind of Utah, but I would believe they're in this ballpark. They'll think Mitchell's more valuable than Rudy, as most people do, I guess. As far as the talent, generational talent, superstar, all that kind of shit. And I think that relationship between them is definitely strained. It's obvious. I don't care what they say and what people say. It's obvious. Rudy's throwing jabs by complimenting Devin Booker about playing defense, and then Mitchell's throwing jabs back about, we don't have enough guys that can move their feet on the perimeter, blah, 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 blah. So I think Rudy's the odd man out. I think Rudy's gone, but fake news. It won't be both of them.
I say fact. I say they're down on both. I think they'll get a trip. Yeah, I think that Ainge is going to get. Here's the thing. I think Rudy will probably be gone for one reason or another, and I think that Donovan's just going to want to go to the Knicks or somewhere. You know how this stuff's going to play out, Bogues.
Donovan said he wants to stay in Utah, pro, at his press conference. Are you calling him a liar?
I don't want to eat 4,000 calories tonight, but I'm fucking lying through my fucking teeth. I mean, there's no doubt about it. So, yes, I think he's lying through his teeth. I think he does on one end want to, but I think in the offseason when it's long, and I'm not saying that I'm not saying it's going to be tomorrow, but I think that, how this shit goes. It starts, a pebble goes down the mountain and ends up an avalanche in no time. And I just think people are going to get in his head. I think there's going to be tampering for sure. And I think then Ainge is going to be like, all right, you want out, then fine, but you're not going where you want to go unless they give me what I want. And he will not let up. He's relentless. So I think he will get dealt. I don't know where. I don't think it's definitely going to be New York. Because to be honest with you, I think that, Ainge would want more, and I don't know if New York has enough. And I think that you're going to have to pony up to get the guy, and I think they'll get both going to be gone.
Donovan and fill in for Dame and fill in. Would you do it? Who says no? I don't think Ainge would do it. Too old. I think that too old.
Too old. Yeah, I think that he's going to go young, and I think that he wants a certain types of players, and I don't think he wants Donovan just because of the age. I think
Dame,
that look. Yeah, Dame. Yeah, I'm sorry. He's not going to want Dame because of the age. I think that he's going to go young. I think he's going to get picks. I think he's going to do what he did in Boston. He's going to do, that's sort of the model he'll probably follow, and he'll try to just get as much as he can. He's got two really valuable players that teams will give you, top dollar for. I think the Knicks will give you almost anything for him. So on their roster. So that's huge. It's not like you get these players that are fringe players that can get you a pick or an expiring deal. These guys can bring you back all-star type players or a trough of picks and a trough of young players. So that's what I think.
Fair enough. All right, Pro, you started this thing. Close it out.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, it's been a pleasure, our honor. Thank you so much from the Rogue Bogues podcast. I will be the last time saying this bullshit, so have a great night. We will see you. Bogues, what do you got to say, bud? What's your last parting statement?
That's it. Fantastic. Pro said it all. See you next week.
Later.